Good evening. How is everybody tonight? Good. I see some wonderful familiar faces here. That's a good thing. So as we begin this evening, as our tradition is, that we have a local pastor open us in prayer and the pledge, and Aaron Berkowitz is here with First Presbyterian Church. Aaron, thank you for opening us in prayer. I appreciate it.
We pray first and then do the pledge? All right. Let's pray. Gracious and loving God, we pray for our city, that it should bless its residents with safety, peace, and justice, especially for the least, the last, and the lost. May our city nurture the resources it has in stewardship for the glorification of you. As it was said by an early Christian father, the glory of God is a human being fully alive. May our city serve life in every way. May all the residents of our city be made more and more alive by their participation in love and charity. Give our community leaders, including this council, the gift of wisdom, that they might discern what is noble, true, good, and beautiful. May their decisions serve the common good and be just. May everyone in this room who has devoted their time and energy to serve their community know the joy of your presence and the satisfaction that comes from serving one's neighbor. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Aaron, thank you for your service to our community, and thank you for joining us tonight.
You're very welcome.
It's appreciated. Thank you. Let's begin with roll call.
Rodriguez?
Here.
Bruner?
Here.
Mucci?
Here.
Levi?
Present.
Hammerfield?
Here.
And Bauer?
So proposed amendments to the agenda, I'm aware of one, and that is item 6.1 on the agenda is a public hearing with an action item, and it is going to be continued to July 6th. And other than that, I am not aware of any other proposed amendments to the agenda. Council, are you aware of any? Or do you have any? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to approve the consent agenda and our agenda as stated.
So moved.
Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
And Hammerfield?
Yes.
So this evening, we have a proclamation, and I maybe referenced this at our last special council meeting, but I'm going to go ahead and reference it tonight, and that is Elder Abuse Awareness Month. I'm going to go ahead and read this, and I don't know if Jeannie's here tonight. I don't see her, but I'll go ahead and read this proclamation. Whereas older adults deserve to be treated with respect and dignity to enable them to serve as leaders, mentors, volunteers, and vital participating members of our communities. Whereas in 2006, the International Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse, in support of the United Nations International Plan of Action, proclaimed a day to recognize the significance of elder abuse as a public health and human rights issue. Whereas the City of Nampa and the Nampa Family Justice Center recognize the importance of taking action to raise awareness, prevent, and address elder abuse. And whereas 2021 marks the 16th annual World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, its recognition will promote a better understanding of abuse and neglect of older adults. Whereas our population lives longer, we're presented with an opportunity to think about our collective needs and future as a nation. And whereas ageism and social isolation are major causes of elder abuse in the United States, whereas recognizing it is up to all of us to ensure that proper social structures exist so people can retain community and societal connections, reducing the likelihood of abuse. And whereas preventing abuse of older adults through maintaining and improving social supports like senior centers, human services, and transportation will allow everyone to continue to live as independently as possible and contribute to the life and vibrancy of our communities. Now, therefore, I, Debbie Clay, Mayor of the City of Nampa, Idaho, do hereby proclaim June 21 to be Elder Abuse Awareness Month, the City of Nampa requests that every citizen of our great community work together to build safer lives and safe community for our elderly residents. So you know what? It's very fitting that this is our proclamation for this evening, in that another thing that we're doing this evening is recognizing our senior center and those that serve our senior center. I don't know everyone's name out there, but Phyllis, I call you all the time. Thank you for always answering the phone and for the work. But I would like to right now, Sandy Levi is a volunteer and serves with the, I'll let you, it's the senior center, but it's the Council on Aging, right? And that oversees our senior center. And so I'd like to defer to you, Sandy, if you'd like to share Councilwoman Levi a little bit. Go ahead.
Are you also going to follow me up? I don't want to take.
Yeah, no, that's fine, but go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Over the last several years, I've had a privilege of working with the Senior Center in different avenues, and in the last few years as the liaison for the Nampa Council on the Aging, as the representative from the City Council. And I will just tell you, we have a great group of people. This is made up of a board that's very committed to what they do, and they're serious. And then I think about Sam, the director of the center. She has such a heart, and it radiates through everything she does. And then I've had opportunities to work with the staff, and they are wonderful. And I have seen things from them over this last almost 18 months now that have just been phenomenal for our seniors that they have served. I remember Diana, our head cook at the time specifically, she has spent very long hours, because when we were told literally overnight we were closing the senior center because of COVID, the plan immediately went into action. And of course, we know that we were experiencing some shortages of food and delivery services of people who normally deliver food. And Diana was spending very long hours tracking down stores where she could find things so we could continue to serve the seniors. They came up with a great plan that delivered curbside service, and it has continued up until the 1st of June to service our seniors. And they have all been so appreciative of the fact that they've been having a good meal Monday through Fridays for the past almost 18 months now. We opened back up in June, and it has been exciting to see the seniors come in, and they're just grateful to have the opportunity to come back together and have that emotional cohesiveness that they so have longed to have. Sometimes we don't realize that when people, especially our elderly, live by themselves, they don't have anyone to talk to. They don't have anyone touching them. They don't have anyone showing them that they have value. So when these seniors would drive through the line and you would talk to them, they were just so appreciative to have us there. So I just want to extend my appreciation and say what an awesome job all of you have done. So I thank you so much. I'm glad that you're here tonight to be recognized. And I'm hoping once the mayor gets done speaking, and I didn't want to talk about the award, I'll let you take care of that. But that we can get a picture of those who are here this evening with the two of us. Thank you.
I would love to do that. Sandy, thank you, and thank you for your work and your service. And so I'd like to just recognize those that are here. There you are, Sam. I'm like, I don't see Sam, but you are there. So why don't you guys just come forward? And so the employees, I would like to recognize different people. And so I've got more names than I think we have here this evening. But the employees are actually Sam Matchley. And so go ahead and all come forward. Phyllis Moreland, Diana Twilla, the head cook, Melissa Perry, Christina Randall, and Justin, how do you say Justin's last name? Ducoke. Okay. And then we have volunteers, Dave Cox, Dale Chastain, I don't see him, delivering meals. Lana, I don't see here this evening. McMorland, Kay Waller, Elise DeCock, Susan Cooper. And who did I miss? Are we there? Thank you, and Mick. There you go. We said your name, but you know what? You guys are amazing. The first day back, I got to come in. I think there were 112 Father's Day, I think, did I hear there were 166 people. My husband will not miss Father's Day lunch. It is like the best. And thank you guys for all you do. And for Sam, Sam was actually recognized in the Treasure Valley Spotlight and was featured in the newspaper with the Treasure Valley Spotlight Award for the work that was done. You guys adapted in a very difficult time when you stepped up, and it was such a blessing. And Dale's willingness to deliver meals, you know, that servant heart. And I know you guys were concerned about the winter, and you endured. Unfortunately, we didn't have a really bad winter, but you were out there every single day with a smile on your face, making a difference in the lives of the seniors that we're in. So when we think about Elder Abuse Awareness Month, the work that you do is what protects lives and makes a difference in just the emotional health of our seniors as they come together. And, you know, and we care about them a lot. I know that the old Table 10 that is no longer there, several of those people aren't even with us anymore. And the difference that you guys make in the lives and just serving every single day. And I just want to say thank you. It is amazing. So is there anything else you'd like to share?
Just thank you for all you do, and they are better than the postmen because the weather did not ever hold them back.
That's true. So stay right there. We're going to come take a picture of you.
You short ones get to get in front.
Us short ones. TJ has a pen for you that we'll hand you in just one second. Once you walks around, we'll need to hand it to you back there. Anyway, thank you so much. You guys are special.
Would they want to?
So the next item on the agenda are our opportunity for Nampa residents wishing to speak on agenda or a non-agenda item. Do we have anyone signed up this evening? You don't think so? Is there anyone that had intended to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item? Okay, seeing none, mayor and council comments, and I do have a few comments tonight. First of all, happy first day of summer. It feels like summer, doesn't it? Yesterday being the longest day of the year, which is kind of nice, but then the heat, yeah. I hope it's not a long summer. So you know what? The State Association of Idaho Cities met this last week. The city of Nampa was recognized with a couple of different awards. The GIS division of our I'll have to get my mouth to work tonight. Public Works team was recognized for GIS and data-driven decisions, which was wonderful. GIS is the backbone of Public Works, providing the critical information needed for project identification and support of our programs. And so thank you. Tom, were you going to go over these tonight? Oh, no, that's okay. I just didn't want to steal your thunder. Okay. Then the Nampa Mayor's Teen Council was also awarded for their efforts on the Youth Mental Awareness Week that they did during COVID. And then the local LTAC, which is the local Highway Technical Assistance Council, awarded Brad Farner, a heavy equipment operator in the Streets Division, with an Innovative Idea Award for his innovative idea to improve safety with some heavy equipment. And so you know what? It's really wonderful when you see the city of Nampa stand out with their innovation and their service and the work that they do. So that was pretty cool. I also wanted to mention that Friday at 10 a.m. is a ribbon cutting for the Educational Rain Garden. So this is at Lakeview Park, and will be a wonderful time to get to see it. And so for those that are available and would like to join, please join us at 10 a.m. Friday morning. I think that's all I have from announcements. Council, do you have anything? Am I missing anything?
Mayor, I just have one little thing, I have to add. And Patrick's out here. Just for July 4th kind of celebration, one little selfish freedom. If we could get these glass petitions down by July 6th, I would so greatly appreciate
You know what? I think we could.
it.
I think we could. I think it's agreed. Thank you.
Councilman Mutchie can't hit me anymore, these are in the way still, yeah.
You know, that's so unfortunate.
But my
Wow.
biggest challenge is birthdays. I have trouble hearing some things. I'm not a good lip reader, so that's a selfish request, but I appreciate it.
Thank you for the reminder. Thank you for the reminder, and we will do that. Thank you. Okay, so we don't have any agency or commission reports this evening. We do have 2 staff communications, and Adam, oh, there you go, right there. Adam Mancini, you have an urban forestry management plan staff update for us.
Mayor?
Yes.
While he's coming, may I just put out a
Oh, and I'm
reminder?
sorry if I missed you.
You're fine. You're fine. June 30th is the God and Country Festival in Nampa at the Ford Idaho Center. Doors open at 5 o'clock. Free fireworks at the end.
That would have been a huge mistake to miss that one. I remembered it earlier today on a different meeting, but yes, God and Country. And you know what? We've got our rodeo coming in July, but God and Country coming before our next council meeting, and I'm thrilled that we have the opportunity to host that again. So, Adam, thank you for providing your update.
Thank you very much. My name is Adam Mancini. I'm the city forester for the city here of Nampa. And very fortunate and appreciative to be here in front of you, Mayor and Council. We have put this document together. It's been about a year in the making, and we're very proud of it. And I hope that you see some benefit. You see all the hard work that has gone into it. So I did provide hard copies for you, and if you receive them, you're welcome to keep them and browse through them at your leisure. If something strikes you and interests you, please feel free to visit it and pose any questions or comments later if you have them for me. It is a working document, so that means we will be revisiting it at least an annual basis, possibly even semi-annually, to update the goals and objectives and other policies within it. And we feel it's important to have because many cities throughout the country, including the world, have a urban forestry management plan. And I felt that Nampa needed one, and we collectively put together some information to make this happen. So I will start off with, so this plan shows many things. It shows the operational procedures for staff to perform their jobs. It also is a catalog of services for the forestry division. It provides to everyone. It establishes the expectations of the forestry division for public officials, citizens, and city departments. And it's a vision to the future with goals and a roadmap. The forestry plan also helps us to do many things. One being that it's a tool to help us effectively manage the existing urban forest. With this, it includes monitoring the tree inventory, staying on track with the pruning schedule as well. Another helpful tool within it helps us monitor the tree health and diversity. With that being said, we want to minimize a monoculture. Monoculture is one major type of tree species. If we have a monoculture within the city and we have a pest that attacks that species of tree, we have a mass casualty within the city. So we want to eliminate that. We want to have a diverse urban forest so that we don't have a mass implication of that. It also helps us manage pests. Another tool, it helps us plan for the future. We want to make sure we're ready and prepared for growth, which we're experiencing quite a bit of growth right now. And then also try to minimize tree conflicts. As we all know, conflicts can be a big challenge, so we want to try to minimize those as best as possible. It helps us to establish budget needs with equipment, staff, and capital expenses. And then also, we're able to acknowledge our public services. And this helps us to inform and educate the public and support other city departments with their endeavors. So why does Nampa need a plan? That's kind of a question that some might wonder. There's a few reasons. The plan will help us manage our inventory of more than 5,600 trees that are on the city-owned properties. This enables us to also protect Nampa's more than $314,000 of annual benefits that our community trees provide. This statistic is based off of our tree inventory data. And those benefits come from monetary benefits such as stormwater reduction, carbon sequestration, and things like that. It's also a plan that helps us collaborate with community developers and city departments to plan for a sustainable future. It helps us to be progressive and proactive. This helps us to avoid conflicts with trees. It also helps to establish and obtain achievable goals and objectives, which we feel are the key component of our management plan. It also helps to provide services and education to the community, which we feel is also one of the most important things, is outreach to the community. So you might be wondering why this is important to you, Mayor and Council. I feel these topics, or these key items here, might hit home for you. It helps to plan and respond to the rapid growth. Like as I mentioned, we have rapid growth, and we want to make sure that we're planting the right trees in the right places, and we're not experiencing a monoculture, as I mentioned. We want to keep Nampa an appealing community for businesses to thrive. We want to attract businesses, and we want to also maintain the businesses that we have. We want to make it a good place for them to have business. Also provide a guide that Nampa Forestry Division does. All that we do. Helps increase property values. Trees, we all know trees help increase property values, whether it's your home or your business. Enhance the livability of our city. Minimize future conflicts with trees, of course. And then reduce expenses on trees and maintenance. As you can see on this next slide, there's a lot of components that are within our management plan. This kind of identifies the different categories and different things you'll find within it. It all encompasses the Forestry Division's commitment to serve the public and maintain a skilled and professional staff. The plan also includes strict standards in which we use to educate and inform the public of acceptable tree practices and individual responsibilities. There are also many appendices available and access within the document. I feel the appendices are important because it helps to provide a detailed look at specific services and operations within the plan. Example you see now on the slide is our tree right-of-way compliance flyer, or door tag, I should say. It's an informative document or piece of paper that we hang on a door, and we work with code enforcement, and we both share the responsibilities of just informing the citizens that their trees maybe need to be pruned above the sidewalk or above the street for safety for the public. Also, you'll find in the electronic version, we have our links available. And Nampa Forestry participates in many organizations and sustainability projects. We pride ourselves in getting involved with programs on a state and even a global level. Links are provided on the electronic version of the plan to allow you to explore some of the great projects and guides that Nampa Forestry has developed or been involved in implementing. A big piece of this plan is the goals, as I mentioned. They help us with the day-to-day operations and stay focused on the year-to-year projects. Few projects that are in the works right now, actually one was recently completed, was the Adopt a Pathway program. And that was a fun project that we worked on, and I was able to get Lippert and Amazon to participate in this program. and they're in the process of designating a section of pathway that they're going to adopt within the next month. Adopt a Tree program is one that I thought of myself. I wanted to try to get the youth and the children involved with our local schools and give them an opportunity to adopt a designated tree, whether it be a new tree or an existing tree, and get to have them take some ownership on it. As they grow, they can watch the tree grow. Arborvitae at Kohler Lawn Cemetery is another challenging effort we have right now. If you may have noticed, some of our arborvitaes there are 60 to 75 years old, and they're nearing their lifespan. They're also being infested with pests, and we have to decide what we're going to do and how we're going to plan going forward. That's an example of a monoculture. We want to avoid that. City Forest Credits, Ora Brandt and Midway Park are both participants of the City Forest Credits. Tree City of the World designation is a really prestigious designation, and I feel that Nampa can obtain it, and it's my goal to get it for us. It can be found within the UK, Spain, Italy, Mexico, China, and US. Boise recently acquired the Tree City of the World designation, and they're happy to help us get it. So there are a few things that you can do to help. One being, familiarize yourself with our urban forestry management plan. I know it's a large document, but take some time, browse through it. Some of it may be interesting, some of it may be challenging to read through, but please familiarize yourself. Continue to support Nampa's Forestry Division as we work to accomplish the goals established in this plan. Encourage Nampa residents to refer to the Nampa Forestry Division as a resource for tree concerns and education. Help us grow to ensure Nampa continues to be safe, healthy, and attractive home for our citizens. We appreciate the time and attention. I welcome any questions or comments. Thank you very much for your leadership and support.
Mayor Kleen, I may add, I didn't read every word, I will admit that, but what a document. I can't imagine the time that went into that. But I just appreciate, I didn't know Adam that well. I gave him a call here about 3 or 4 weeks ago and said, we got 31 trees in our 2 properties. And I said, I'm having some challenges. And he came out, he was so kind, because he realized right off the bat that my gift of pruning is not a strong gift. And he was kind, but gave some ideas. I didn't realize they did that. They go out to individual citizens' properties and will actually advise. So anyway, appreciate that, and don't want to take any more of your time, but he gave some great ideas, and hopefully my gift, whatever it may be, will improve. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Okay, any other comments? Yes, Andy?
Thank you for your presentation tonight.
Yes, thank you.
As far as a list of tried and true tree species, where would you send someone looking for, because you talk about public right-of-way, tree planting, the partnership with the property owner and the city. Do you have a list somewhere available? It's not in the document here. So is there someplace you would send someone to
Yeah.
look for those documents?
Yes, Councilman Haverfield, that's a great question. So we do have a resource that City of Nampa was actually participating in developing along with local nurseries and other communities. It's called the Treasure Valley Tree Selection Guide. It is available on a link on the electronic version. It's also available on the Parks and Rec website. So if anyone needs any reference to a great resource for trees that are tolerable of the Treasure Valley conditions and that are best suited for our environment and for our area, that's the best resource.
So you say it's available online. Is it available in a hard copy form? Or is it
We can get you a hard copy, absolutely.
From a design perspective, as a design, part of the design community, it's nice to have those type of documents available, to be able to select from, knowing what's current and what's obviously been tried and true, and those that have been found to be disease potential trees. And availability is now a big thing, what is out there. So does that document have that type of information in, along with the class 1, 2, 3 variations of tree types?
Yes, it's a very detailed document, and I'm spearheading the updating of it. It's from 2018, so it is in need of some updating. In retrospect, ash trees are referenced in there, and that may not be the best suited tree because of the ash borer. But as a landscape architect, there's a lot of architects in the valley that have utilized that as a resource for designing and developing their
Right.
projects.
And Mayor, one last question. As far as coordination of tree trimming, does Idaho Power just do their own thing as far as when there's overhead power lines and trees that are growing into them? Or is that the city for those trees? Some of those trees, I mean, they're just weird shapes that they're ending up with. And it's unfortunate that the type of tree selected underneath those overhead power lines was not something more conducive to growth, restricted in just its type of tree selection. So do you guys coordinate with Idaho Power? They just come in and do their own thing?
Unfortunately, we do not. Idaho Power has their own schedule, and they prune the trees on a 3-year basis. So as they prune those trees that are under power lines and around power lines, they have to prune them to be able to withstand 3 years of growth and not impede on the power lines. It's a protection of their investment and the way that Idaho Power sees it is they want to protect their customers. So the more trees that are potentially damaging and taking down power lines, then you're going to have customers that are out without service. So it's an unfortunate circumstance where the trees are not planted and weren't planted in the right place. And that's part of the planning for the growth and planning for the future that I'm trying to be involved in to make sure that we don't have that problem going forward or with billboards and signage and that so forth.
Unfortunately, a lot of these trees that I noticed are on Midland Boulevard West Side, which is over by Darrell's house, which gives him the thought that that's how a tree should be pruned.
No, he knows better.
It was
Right back at you.
Sunday, be nice.
Yeah.
I can get you a copy if you like for the,
Yeah, if you would,
Tree selection
I'd
guide.
sure appreciate it.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. Adam, thank you for your work, and I appreciate the document, and I'll get a chance to read through it more thoroughly. A few years ago, you or, oh my goodness, the gentleman before you, his name just escaped me. Earl, thank you. I went to school with his wife, and I could not think that name. Had brought before us that someone was going to chart and graph all of the trees that the city of Nampa has throughout the city. And I'm figuring, since you came up with the number 5,600, did that get completed?
Yes, it did actually get completed almost 4 years ago. We had an intern from NNU catalog and chart all of our trees in the inventory, and we update it on a daily basis. As we lose trees, as we plant new trees, we're constantly updating it and updating the condition of the trees. So it is a current, up-to-date inventory tool that we have, and it's a great tool. And it's free from the state of Idaho, which is nice.
Okay, great. And I know that your department was very instrumental. I had a neighbor that moved here recently from Texas, and they had a lot of questions about what they could plant, how they could plant them, and what was native to the area, et cetera. And they were so impressed with the service that you all gave them that I want to thank you for that as well. Very fine representatives of the city.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Are there any other questions or comments? Adam, thank you so much for your presentation, and Darren and team, Cody, thank you. Thank you for the work that you guys do. You have an amazing team,
Thank you
and
very
we
much.
really appreciate your work. Thank you
Appreciate
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a staff report, Tom, and then we do need to, and we can probably do it. We need to get through a couple of items before 6:30, but my guess is we've got time. Is that right? Yeah. Thank you, Tom.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I just have a couple items for you tonight. Just an update on the chip seal. The chip seal's going really well. They're making great progress. They are actually done with all the arterials and are thinking they'll be done with the subdivisions by the end of next week. And then they'll take a little time off around the 4th of July and then clean out their oil truck and then get it set up for fog sealing. And they'll start that after the 4th of July. So things are going well. And thanks, Mayor Klings. He took a trip on the chipper and had some positive things to say about the team. So we appreciate her out there and her support.
I tell you what, it's hard work, the attention to detail, the concentration for hour upon hour. Those guys are amazing, and I don't know how they do it. And when it's hot, it's at least 140 degrees at their feet where they're sitting, and it's in the afternoon. It's crazy hot, but they have to be so focused and so attentive to everything that they're doing, and I won't spend a lot of time. I could spend more time on it, but I was so incredibly impressed. And again, I say, I'm so proud of our team, We've got a really good team out there that's working hard, and that is not easy work, but to do it well, which they do, takes a real focus. It takes an incredible team effort. I just think about those guys when they're trying to watch the amount of chip that's pouring into I would call it an auger, I don't know what you call it, that's laying it down. At the same time, they're watching where you're driving, because if you come up to a signal, you've got to put the dump down or you hit the traffic signals. But you have to make sure it stays flowing at the right pace at the same time. The guys, when you mentioned cleaning the truck, our guys take such incredibly good care of their equipment. I was so impressed. And anyways, if anybody wants to go out and do it, you should do it, because it's impressive. I'm proud of our team. We have a great team, and you see it when you see the recognition statewide. So, good job, Tom.
Oh, yeah, well, it's a team and the streets crew doing the work. And I'm really thankful that we're doing our own chip seals. I've managed contractors doing chip seals before, and I have to say that these people do the best. And our team, we got a really great crew, so.
I was in
Nice.
Ada County, and I saw this huge pile of rock right in the middle of the road, and I knew exactly what happened. And it's like, you know what our guys do? They jump out and they sweep it.
Great.
They're sweeping and getting it smooth, and you don't see that in Nampa, so good job.
Thanks. The next item, Mayor talked a little bit about this. The rain garden opening is coming up on the 25th at 10 to noon at Lakeview Park. So I invite you to come out and check that out. It's looking really good, and that's been another team effort between streets and park and some contractors donating some materials and labor. So we're glad to see that come together and be able to provide this for the late Cheryl Jenkins. She used to work for us, and so her name's going to be on this, and so that's a pretty exciting thing. And then, so environmental compliance, and I've got two members from environmental compliance. Have you come up while I'm talking here? And so they spend a lot of time doing outreach on all the various stormwater activities and discharges to the storm drains and how to keep them clean. And they've reached out to 50,000 residents through some of their outreach programs. And if I could just, Amy, talk just a little bit about her program here, it'd be a good opportunity for her. This is Amy Reynolds here. She does all the outreach for us, and then Evan Jenkins, he's a program manager over the team. So.
Awesome.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak today. We have about 13 education outreach that have been done so far since I started back in September. We have 8 new educational flyers, 7 of which who have been translated into Spanish through use of our city employees who have helped us with that. So thank you to them. Like Tom was saying, we do have approximately 50,000 residents that we've been able to do stormwater education awareness to through our utility billing information. So in all the Nampa residents' billings, for the e-billing, they've been able to have a stormwater outreach flyer, which I can show you if you're interested. We also have an example where in the e-billing, they were able to get information that's on the bottom of the e-bill and the paper billing. And then we also had outreach activities with the Nampa Public Library for take-home activity kits. And then we did a project with the Nampa Public Education, or I'm sorry, School District.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Did you guys have any questions for me?
I don't think so, but thank you so much for your work. I appreciate the partnership with the school district and the kids and all that you do. So the education is important. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I was wondering if you would like, we do have copies of the outreach activity booklets that are.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Evan, are you going to talk to us tonight? You're here for moral support. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for all you do. It's appreciated. Great job.
So that concludes our report, unless there's questions for me in Public Works. Okay.
I don't think so.
All
Tom,
right,
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. At this time, we're going to move into our new business section of our meeting tonight, and we're going to start with item number 5.1. This is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign the second amendment to the professional services contract with SafeBuilt. This is for a revised end date of December 31, 2021, not to exceed $158,000. It has been reviewed by legal.
Hey, Mayor and Council, thank you very much. I've been speaking to Todd Lakey about this. I think I'd like to pull this one and refine it and get some additional quotes. We started out, this is the second amendment to the first contract we entered into last fall, and then we extended it this spring. Each of those amounts were $45,000. And we were trying to keep the services rolling since they expire on July 6th. So it's my thought that, give me a little bit of time to get some comparative bids so that, and then I'm also going to reduce the amount to under 100,000. So it can be informally bid.
Okay.
So that's beyond reproach. So,
Thank you. We'll bring
yeah.
it back then.
Okay.
Do we need to
Yes.
postpone it to a date certain?
No, it's not a public hearing, so we'll just pull the item at this time and we'll bring it back at a later date.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 5.2 is to review and approve a proposed FY22 contract amendment for Republic Sanitation Services. This includes operation changes, contract extension, and the annual rate increase for budget year FY22. And Rochelle, it's always good to have you here. Thank you
Mary
for
Kay.
coming, and we'll let you start, and then we'll wrap up with Doug.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Rochelle Klein with Republic Services, 2130 West Franklin and Meridian. And thanks for letting me come here tonight to talk to you about some questions we've had for a long, services that have been requested for a long time. Let's see. Okay, and just, we don't often tell the story of what we do behind the blue trucks, and so this is just a recent list of awards nationally that we've been granted, and we just want to make sure we let you know that it's more than just the trash at the curb, that we're a good employer and a good company, at least for me, to work for. So that's important that we share that story. There it goes. And also that we're environmentally sound. So we do try to make really conscientious decisions about how we operate and the products that we buy and the trucks that we run. And these are just some examples of how we go about doing that on a daily basis. One of the things that we'd like to follow up on, it's actually on the top, is renewable natural gas, which we use problematic methane as a transportation fuel. And back when the wastewater treatment facility was being upgraded, we were contacted by the city, one of the city contractors, to see if we'd be willing to buy the methane from the wastewater treatment facility here in town. And we had said yes, but we haven't heard back. So that may be coming. We'll see what happens with that. That'd be a good story. Also, we're just a committed community partner. So whether it's in-kind services to like the Snake River Stampede, or whether it's cash donations to different organizations in town, or things like the maps. I don't know if any of you have seen the map from the rec center that has like the parks and the bike paths and stuff like that. We try to support the community in some of those less obvious needs. And then just sharing that the tax rebate that we get from running an alternatively fueled fleet. Also, one thing that we do, and we don't really share this very often, but we would love any of your help with this, is we offer a driver training program. So we encourage anybody 18 or older, if they're interested, they're unsure of maybe what they want to do. This is Anna. She was one of our driver trainees. They can come to us, and we pay the $3,000 for their CDL course, as well as their test fee and then their medical card fee. And then we ask for them to work for us 1 year in return. And really, a CDL lets you pivot and go a lot of different directions, whether it's operations or dispatch or human resources or stay as a driver. A lot of our folks just spend their entire careers as drivers. We also stay FEMA cross-trained, and I think a testament to our crew is that we have under 5% turnover here in Nampa. And we do send out surveys quarterly to see how engaged they feel, and we are averaging 86% engagement, which is pretty good. And one of the things I take pride in, also lots of things tonight, but one of the things is, there are labor shortages everywhere, but we still get the trash picked up. So when we're short people, if you talk to the drivers, they'll tell you they'll not be able to finish their route in a 12-hour day, if they're up against the clock, and they'll call dispatch, and they said there's such a wave of relief when they see two other blue trucks turn onto the street to start collecting the rest of the material. So they try to always get the route done every route day. And then our current residential trash, this is just residential service, but it's $15.90 is our current reimbursement rate. And that's a little bit different than the customer-facing rate because things like, road maintenance and administrative fees and things like that have to be layered on top for billing services and postage and stuff like that. And that's currently kind of one size fits all. So every customer has a 96-gallon trash cart and recycling cart. And it's unlimited, so you fill your cart first, and then you could put unlimited number of cans or the craft paper bags out or anything that can fit in the cart, we'll be able to take it away. We offer spring cleanup each year, which is a 1-week unlimited event where we take bulky items and non-freon appliances and things like that. So, currently one price, one size for all customers. This data is from 2020, and obviously the population, the household count here has gone up significantly, but on average, Nampa households throw about 300 pounds per household per month, and they recycle about 30 pounds. Recycling markets have been kind of sluggish and upside down. They're starting to turn around, but this is just last year between all of the recyclables that we collected, that was the total that it costs to keep the program intact. And we do believe that's starting to turn around. And 96% of the households here participate, and we count that as just putting your cart out once a month. So at least one time a month. Let's see. The current state of residential trash. So last year, Nampa residents collectively threw away 33,984 tons of waste. And so we averaged 49.2 pounds per drive-by. And the average household generated 1.22 tons of waste per year. And we're lucky here that in Canyon County, we have the lowest landfill rates in the country, $14.50 per ton, which makes it a little bit tricky when you do things like a variable cart rate, just because the savings doesn't always reflect, like if you go down a size, disposal is pretty inexpensive. So we'll get to that on the next slide. In other areas where we've had variable cart rates offered, we see 11% of the people shift down to a 65-gallon cart, and then 3% go to the smallest size cart. And that's based on Eagle, Meridian, and Boise data. And then, let's see. This just shows you kind of the math behind their presentation. So when we go down from an unlimited 96-gallon, assuming 11% of the people drop down, it would be the cart contents only. So if you go from like a 96, which is equivalent to 3 cans, down to a 65, it's roughly 2 standard trash cans. And then the smallest size is 1.5 trash cans, and that's the 48-gallon cart. And the true savings on disposal by going down each size, we would say 49 cents per household per month for the 65-gallon and 70 cents per household per month if people jump down to the smallest. And that's assuming that they would just keep only all of their material in the cart. And let me know if you have any questions about this. And this just shows you the actual footprint, like if people want a smaller cart. And currently, we know that 49 cents and 77 cents is not enough to make anybody want to change, cart sizes. So our proposal is to go down $2 per size down. So from 96 to 65, it would be $2 less per month. And then to jump down to 1.5 trash cans per week or 48-gallon, it would be $4 off per month. And with that, one of the questions we got was, what if people want to change around? Like, what if things change and you have a baby or someone moves off to college and you need to go up a size or down a size? And so that would mean moving cart sizes once a year for free. And also, we've been asked for many, many years to offer glass recycling, and we finally found a durable long-term solution, and that's Momentum Glass recycling down in Salt Lake City, and they take the glass and crush it and use it for fiberglass insulation. And so the risk that we ran before was we could find markets, but they were really temporary, and so this is a really good long-term solution. And for whatever reason, people are very passionate still about recycling glass. It's heavy, it feels like it has value, and I just put the stats in here from Eagle alone. We collected over 3 million pounds last year, and that's about a third of the size of Nampa. And that would be staged at our facility here in Nampa off Kings and Comstock. And then when people change cart sizes, we have to have that inventory available, whether it's trash carts or recycling carts. So we would buy roughly 7,600 carts to meet the needs of customers that want to change sizes. And then we would need 2 glass containers because as one fills and we take it off to dump it, we have to have an empty one to slide in behind it. So, and based on just what we know in other communities, that would have to be hauled at least 2 to 3 times per week year round. And then the math with this, of lowering the reimbursement rate, is it's roughly a 2% decrease in current contract value. And then here's the proposal that we have for you tonight is the current contract allows for the West Urban wage earners and clerical workers CPI on the 12-month period ending each May. And historically, I've been in this a long time, I've never seen it. I mean, I've seen it like once above 3%. I've never seen inflation like we are seeing now. So these are the current indices for May for both the all items, the Western all items, and then the garbage trash. And one of the things that we would like to see is a contract with garbage trash index. There are hundreds of indices, whether it's like for dairy or, you know, they have them for everything. But the West Urban wage earners and clerical workers really has a lot of stuff a lot of items that really aren't reflected in our day-to-day operations. And so garbage trash really tracks like steel and, you know, truck costs and things like that much more closely. And it's currently running lower than all items, but they change depending on what's going on out, you know, in the community and the world. So, but we are excited to finally bring a glass recycling solution, a variable cart rate solution to Nampa. And with that, we're asking for a 5-year extension. If you decide we still have 2 years left on the contract, but if this is something you do choose to do, we would ask for a 5-year extension to help offset the costs of the carts and the containers for glass, and then another truck and driver, and then a flat 4% increase in year 1. And to be honest, that's just employee wages. So we've always considered us to be a good employer, and our drivers, we hire them at $17.73 an hour. That always has been what we consider a livable wage, and we're not finding that to be the case anymore. So housing costs have outpaced what our, you know, we would like them to at least be able to afford an apartment on their own, and we're not even seeing at $17.73 that's the case. And so we're trying to get ahead of a worker shortage. We're seeing people take transfers with our company to Wisconsin and Louisiana, Texas and Arizona, other places where it's more affordable. And we really want to, well, we are going to, we committed on July 1st to increasing their hourly wage to $19.75 an hour. So the request really is to pass on to our employees so that they can stay here. And, you know, I look back and it's nothing we can solve here anytime soon, but our drivers who've been with us a long time, they bought their houses for $85,000 to $125,000. And our new employees, you know, we hope that they get that opportunity, and that's going to be tough because housing here is just really expensive. And so I think across the valley, we're seeing a shortage of workers, and we're doing our best to retain them. I think this is just one of the ways that we can do that. So it's unabashedly, like, we have to admit we have to pay our employees more to keep them. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Mayor, just clarification. So with these different cart sizes, do you still, like when I'm out pruning those trees so well, and I have an extra standard trash can, I don't do that very often, but your drivers, they always seem to pick that up. Are they supposed to be picking that up?
Yes, thank you. Yes, Councilman Bruner and Mayor Kling. Yes, with the unlimited, so the proposal is with the 96-gallon service, they would still keep doing exactly that. And then the savings would be if you get a 65 or 48, then you would have your unlimited spring cleanup each spring and then the week after Christmas. But the rest of the time, your materials would need to be in the cart if you wanted to choose a smaller size cart.
Okay, so the larger size is where you would, is that for the county too? My associate who lives in the county says that they do not allow him to.
Right, yeah.
So
And
it's just the
it's
city
in
limits.
Nampa, in city limits, yeah.
Okay,
They'll-
otherwise everything's supposed to be in one of the carts. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks for the clarification.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
Thanks for the presentation. I mean, if this was a track meet, you're out there, man. You've got so much information to give us. The two, for the 65-gallon, you show 2 cans. Is one of those the blue and one the, I mean, where does the recycle bin fit?
Sure, thank you. Mayor Clan, Councilman Haverfield. It would be for both. You could choose a smaller recycling. This is just showing the footprint, but you can choose both sizes, a small size recycling cart and a small trash cart. The price would be based on how much waste you generate. So you could have a really big recycling cart and a small trash cart, or you could have, you can mix that up and have different sizes, but the price would be based on your size of your trash cart. And I think I was on a volunteer committee earlier here when we were looking at projects in Nampa, and we're talking about some community housing they're gonna have smaller footprints and smaller yards, and smaller carts would be a great option for households without a yard or much to throw away, It seems like, I was sharing this presentation, we have just people here in Nampa that have already thought that they could use a smaller size cart and save money each year. So I think it's good to have a variety. It's treated more like a utility than it has historically been.
Before I let you go, my real question was, you caught my attention with the methane gas statement.
Yes.
Councilman Bruner and I both sit on the wastewater advisory committee, and this will be a topic that I'd like to bring up with them for clarity. As I've asked this question before, as far as use in the plant itself, if there is a potential for return on investment, that's obviously something that catches my attention. If there was, how many trucks do you have currently that can run on this, and is it liquid or vapor?
Nope, we buy it from Intermountain Gas, and then we pay, well, there's a dairy digester in the Magic Valley, but we buy it regionally to have it cleaned and put back in the pipeline to offset what we draw out. And there was interest because it was a consultant with an engineering firm from Colorado who contacted us on behalf of the city of Nampa when you were making the changes. And so we had said, yes, we would definitely be interested. And then we didn't hear back from her, but I can go back and get her name and maybe reconnect and we can figure that out. Because I think it's kind of a shame to flare it when it can be used just locally in Nampa as a transportation fuel. Yeah.
I will be asking that question at our next meeting.
Well, Tom is here, so we'll follow up on that. Thank you, Tom.
Tom might remember. Do you remember the consulting firm or the engineering firm that helped with that? Yes, Brown and Caldwell, and it was out of the Colorado office. So we can find her name, I'm sure. So maybe get you a head start on that. It'd be a good story, though, to really fuel the trash fleet with methane generated here in town.
So actually, this is an action item. So if you don't have any other questions for Rochelle, I'll let you sit down. If we have another
thank you.
question, we may have you.
Okay.
And who's your guest this evening?
Oh, thank you. As many of you might remember Dave Fisher. He was our general manager here for many years, and he retired. And Bob Bennett is our general manager, and he lives here in Canyon County. He lives, I think, unincorporated Canyon County, just outside of Nampa city limits. And he's, as we heard earlier, got some big shoes to fill, but he loves it here. He said he's waited a long time to get to Idaho, so he's grateful to be here.
It's great to have
Bob,
you.
yeah.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to defer to Doug at this point, and for Doug to share with us a little bit about the contract and where we're going, and for Doug to answer any questions that we might have.
So briefly, the reason this came up is we were talking earlier this year about the cost of utilities going up, and especially the impact on households that may have limited capacity to expand and pay more for various utility bills. And Rachel mentioned that they offered these smaller car services in some other cities. And while it may not be a huge saving for somebody with a large house, if you have people who are on fixed incomes, not generating much income, and are not generating much garbage, and they don't throw much away, if they could save $4 a month, $48 a year, that might be enough to offset, save some money or offset other cost increases elsewhere. And so that was the impetus of this. And we've been going back and forth for the last couple of months. They initially wanted to bring this forth as a 0% increase, but then they got caught in the same problem that we're all facing now, is the rising cost of wages. And that's just, it's a reality we're all facing here in the city. All the employers, you'll see it when we talk about our budget, some of the impacts we're seeing. But they came back with, they could have gone to 4.3 and they cut it to 4 to be a little more reasonable. If you recall last year, I think they came in at 0.62%, if I recall correctly. So they even went below that last year to try and meet the needs of the city. So at any rate, this was an attempt to try and find savings for those people least able to afford price increases. And I'm not sure the math on this, but I'm not sure if 4% outstrips of $48 a year. I think probably comes close to even without driving an increase. But this is a way we can save some of the people a little bit of a cost on the utility bills.
And Doug, legal reviewed this agreement?
Yes.
Okay. And so the shift, so the discussion about, we have 2 years left on our existing agreement. My understanding is we're looking for 5 years, but is this agreement replaces the current 2? Is that correct?
Well, it adds on to the current too, so it would be for 7 years.
But the terms shift to the current terms of the 5-year agreement?
Right,
Okay, so it's a 7-year agreement under these current terms
right, that's correct.
versus a 5-year under current terms. Okay,
So
okay, yes.
question for Doug then. This is an annual rate increase for fiscal year '22. Right. So is fiscal year '23 a rate increase, or is it the same? Well, that would depend on what the CPI does. So this contract states that the annual increases are, and this is one thing that Rachel was addressing, was the annual rate of increase is, in the contract, is tied to the, I think it was the Western States CPI, and what they're proposing is to go, what was to the garbage collection? The garbage trash CPI. So apparently there's a CPI for garbage and trash, and they would propose that we tie our annual rate increase to whatever the CPI is for that function of the economy. So I won't know what next year's is until we get the CPI for next year.
Yes.
But it's been in the contract, that's a CPI increase all along. So I have a question for legal then. We have an upcoming election in the fall. Can this council make a decision in this regard that's going to obligate future council seats to proceed with this potential increase each year? Is that acceptable?
So, Madam Mayor and Councilmember Haverfield and Doug, I've looked at the proposed amendments as they're increasing. I haven't seen the underlying contract. With it being a multiple contract, I anticipate there's a non-appropriation clause in there that would address that annual ability to deal with that. Doug, I guess I would defer to you.
I'll have to look back and see if there is. There most likely is. This was approved, 8 years ago by a prior council, so there should be a non-appropriation clause in each of our contracts. That will be standard. I'll verify that. This is just the amendment to extend the current contract's terms, not to change the original contract per se. And in that contract change, one of the purposes is for the extension is they're adding costs to their service in order to give us more of a discount. If you recall, the actual savings in the landfill was fairly small, and they're actually probably giving almost 3 times the savings, because they're going to go back and then do some more training, use the smaller carts so they don't need to get out of their trucks to do the unlimited pickups. That's cost savings for them. And then that would drive the rate from I think the 79 cents up to the $2 for the first step down and $4 to the second step down. So it's an investment on their part. They're looking to recoup over time.
So Mayor, question. Number one, we take you guys so for granted. Appreciate that. I am not real fond of a long-term contract, and my question also is, as far as what's our ability to, if a competitor does come in the bidding process, what's our, I mean, just the reality, a free market system, what's our ability to get out of a 7-year contract?
Well, if you sign a 7-year contract, I don't think you go into it with the intent of breaking it.
I understand.
The current contract, I believe, was 10 years as the length of the first contract. We're in year 8 of that right now. You always have the non-appropriations clause, and I do know, I believe it was 2 years ago or a year ago that Boise switched to a different provider. I'm not familiar, or a service provider of trash collections. I do know that based on the work with Republic, they've been very responsive to our needs and responsive to when we ask for a question on, either analysis, cost, or support in times of an economic challenge. So past history has told me they've been a good partner to work with. As far as an RFP, we would be, if we don't do this contract, then we'll be going for an RFP in 2 years. And then if we don't do it, so what would happen is we would budget according to the current contract, which would be an increase of the Western State CPI, which was 4.66%. And we would not then be able to offer the lower cost carts of $2 or $4 per smaller cans. So that's if we didn't do this. And then in 2 years, we would go for an RFP.
Mayor, guarantee you, Rochelle, you're with us for another 7 years? You're not moving or retiring? Or?
I wish. I have kids in college.
It's a good thing.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
Rochelle, you have in here that the basic service for the one trash and one recycling cart is $15.90 per month, but you said that didn't include administrative fees and some other things.
Yes, go ahead and come forward. That way we have you on microphone.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton, Councilwoman Mutchie. Yes, that's our reimbursement rate, but what the city bills the customer is different than what the city pays us, because there has to be a layer of, like the city has a whole billing utility billing department, and so those fees have to be accounted for in the rates. So what we get paid and what the customers pay are different.
Do we know what the true rate is for?
Well, the way, and this is a really good topic of discussion, the way we get reimbursed, there are two revenue streams from Republic Trash. One, there's the rental for the actual cans, right? That's a fixed value. We pass 100% of that through back to Republic. We don't keep any of that. For the service, the trash collection service, we retain a percentage, and I believe it's 16 or 18%. I don't recall the exact number. Do you recall?
I can't remember, but it's right about.
It's 16, 18%.
Hubert,
right.
Mr.
I
Osborne
knew
knows.
Hubert would know the answer to
Right.
that question.
So what we do with that value, and this is, yes, a discussion we've had with Herbert, what we do with the entirety of that rebate that they pay back to us, so if we charge them $15.90, if that's what we charge our customer, then we return $15.90 less 18%. We take that 18% and we give it right over to the streets department. 100% of that goes right to the streets, and they use that for maintenance on the roads because garbage trucks are heavy. They do wear and tear over the streets at time, and this 18%, it adds up to, I think it's about $1.6 million, $1.7 million a year that we give back to the streets department, and they use that for paving projects. The city, we have no profit that the city retains. We just use it right directly for the streets projects.
Just trying to do the math to see what the savings, it still seems like there'd be some savings to people.
Probably a little bit. Mentally, I think there will be some, yes, especially if you go with the $4 can, you'd come out a little bit ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mayor, not the time to negotiate, but while you're up here, and I know General Manager is here, I'd be personally much more comfortable with a 3-year extension than a 5-year extension. I think 7 years is just a long extension. I realize I heard 10 years was our last contract. And I was not aware of that, so that was news to me. Is there any,
And Councilman Bernard, I might be able to speak to that just because the business that we're in is so expensive the trucks are so expensive to depreciate them in a shorter cycle, like maybe 3 years or 4 years. They're, just under $400,000 each. So it makes it more affordable. And it's like paying the Golden Gate Bridge. So we don't wait till the whole fleet ages out. We're constantly getting new trucks. And so I think that's part of the reason for the longer term contracts is that it allows you time to depreciate the, containers that you buy in the trucks. It's just an expensive business to go with a shorter contract. If that helps.
And I don't know the answer to this question, so I'm asking kind of in the blind. With other municipalities, what are the length of contracts that you're engaged with?
Thank you for that question. So in Meridian, it's an evergreen contract. So each year they decide whether or not to renew it for 7 more years. And I think that contract's been in place since the 40s. I don't know if you know that answer, maybe 50s, maybe the 50s. And in Boise, we have it's a 10-year contract. This last year, I think it was 11 because we built a compost facility for their compost program. So it was 11. Most of our contracts are 7 to 10 years. We don't have any that are shorter than that currently. Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't know I should have asked you.
Yeah, that's okay. And we have contracts, in Eagles 10 years, Star is 7, so that they're about the same. So, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, what is the will of the council?
Kling.
Yes.
This is an action item, and I believe that Republic has been a great partner with the city of Nampa in hearing that they have similar contracts with other municipalities in the valley. I don't have any issues with the logic behind their requests, so I would make the motion to approve this proposed contract amendment as presented to us this evening.
Second?
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez? Yes. Brunner?
Hesitant a little bit, but yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Bauer? No. Levi?
Yes.
And Haverfield?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Made it before public hearing, and we are, thank you, Rochelle. Thank you very much. So it is time for our public hearing, so we're going to move to the public hearing section of our agreement, of our agenda, and we're going to move right now to public hearing number 1. This is an action item, but it has been requested that the public hearing be continued to date certain of July 6th. So I would ask for a motion to continue this public hearing.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Mucci?
Item 6.2 on the agenda is an action item. This is annexation and zoning to RS6 and approval for this Chase subdivision. This is 113 single-family lots and 13 common lots at 0 Middleton Road. This is for Schultz Development. Is our applicant here this evening? Hi. Come on up. I think you know the routine. Just a couple times, huh?
Thank you. My name is Matt Schultz, 8421 South 10 Mile and Meridian, here on behalf of Schultz Development and Challenger Development. We were here a couple months ago at City Council with this subdivision that got continued. One of the big deals was the pending state legislation, which didn't go as well as we had hoped in terms of it getting passed and having some issues with that. I know we're here and we agree with the city in terms of how appropriate that was, and we're here to help in any way we can in that regard moving forward. However, all we can do is look at this site in particular and know that it is within your impact area, contiguous to city limits, meets your comp plan. And one of the things we did in our continuance period was go back and look at if we could provide a little bit more meaningful open space. In the middle there used to be 7 more lots in that central block, and we had a good plan before, and now this is a better plan in terms of opening that up and dropping them 7 lots. We're actually at 106 now in the red, as you can see, and opened up the open space, and you can see it's quite measurable and quite large, and large enough for a soccer field if somebody wanted to put one there, along with playground benches, basketball court, and pathway. So we have some great amenities. Average lot size is over 8,000 square feet. I believe we're 2/3 over that. There's I think 15 or 16 lots under that for a little bit of variety, but we think it's well suited, well placed. And there is in your packet that we submitted in the updated letter that we did a layout on the site to the east. I know was a concern, Darrell, of how that would lay out, and there's actually it actually works out pretty well in terms of what can lay out there in the future, meeting the RS6 or whatever they want to do there. It's not under our control. We also propose some DA terms, propose some architectural variety, and it's kind of a foundational document that if the city council would like to add anything, they could, and we'd be agreeable to that. We would provide some foundational items in the proposed DA for some architectural variety. I know that was a concern. We think it's a good site. It blends in. I don't know if we have anybody here to oppose us. I know we didn't last time, and we're kind of filling in an area that got bypassed previously with development. We have development to the south of us, to the west of us, and to the north of us, so we're kind of filling in, which is the right thing to do, and take advantage of some services that are right there. The majority of our sewer will come from Middleton Road through some adjacent properties. We've worked out an easement with adjacent properties to do so. we think we've made a good plan better, and we think we provided the documents that hopefully would allow you to approve it tonight, and I'll stand for any questions. Thank you.
Mayor Kling. Matt, it appears that there is development to the west of you and north Fitzwilliam Street is the connector to Orchard. So you'll be connecting through that subdivision to get your second access point?
Yes, Mayor and Councilman Haverfield. For the time being, until the property to the east develops, we have provided a future stub street that would go to Middleton to provide a third access. In the short term, we've got 2 on our own until that provides. So there is a way to get that over to Middleton later with a stub street to the east.
So.
But in the short term, it won't.
To the west.
To the west, we are connecting to existing development to the west and also to existing orchard to the north.
Okay, so the neighbors to the west didn't have issues?
Nobody showed up. We're doing this equivalent lot sizes, and we're not rocking the boat from a lot size standpoint. We're blending in, and so we haven't had any negative feedback personally. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll wait and see what the public testimony is, I guess. But final question, Mayor. Just from my standpoint, you have a small lot there right off the main entry as you're coming into the development there to the right. Why is that placed there and not maybe right in line with the entrance? That house is usually, or that lot with a house on it usually gets a lot of light as people come into the subdivision. Why you put that to the right instead of at that location? It's just a personal question that while you're standing there.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilman Haverfield. And I lay these things out myself, so I get it, and I try to envision the car coming in there. And the pathway is lined up to be closer to Central, and we think the headlights of that car coming in is going to be more between houses. If you look at lined up with a lot line instead of right in the middle of a lot, if you look at the travel lane. So it's a little nuanced, but we do look at those things and do the best we can to line them
You've got a
up.
hot market, but that'll be the last lot to sell.
Maybe. We'll see.
Are there any other questions? Matt, thank you so much. We'll have
Thanks.
you back,
Thank you.
the process. Thank you so much. Okay, Christy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The request before you this evening is approval or denial of the request for annexation and zoning to RS6 of the property located on the southwest corner of Orchard Avenue and Middleton Road. The property is currently outside the city limits. It is contiguous to the city limits on the north, south, and west sides. It's bordered on the west by RS 8.5 zone properties in the Westminster subdivision, and on the north and west by RS 6, which are also Westminster and Eagle Stream subs, and on the east by Canyon County Ag properties. There was a comment made at the last city council meeting that this one was at regarding whether or not annexing this would cause an enclave of the properties to the east. It will not. Orchard Avenue still has a ways to go before it will be annexed into the city as right-of-way, so it will keep those from becoming enclaved. City services can be assumed to be available to this development. P&Z recommended approval to City Council for the annexation and zoning to RS6 in February of this year and approved the preliminary plat at that same meeting. So this is the applicable regulation for annexation, which is listed in your staff report and that you are familiar with. The applicable regulations for approving zoning, also listed in your staff report. We received public input from the building department, the engineering department, and the GIS departments with their standard lists of comments and conditions, and from Pioneer Irrigation indicating the need to protect the Isaiah Drain easement. We also received comments from fire and police. Fire has indicated that it is 1.2 miles from fire station number 4 with a response time of 4 minutes. That is a correction from your staff report. There was a typo, so it should be 4 minutes. And it is an increased demand of 0.339 positions for the fire department. For the police department is 4.8 miles from the police station. It is an increased demand of 0.5 officers and 0.17 support staff. So as far as staff analysis of this particular project, it does meet the comprehensive plan for medium-density residential. That is, it proposes in our comp plan that it would be between 2.5 and 8 gross dwelling units per acre. This project proposes 3.2 gross dwelling units per acre. It is within the public interest to provide a variety of housing opportunities in the city. Compass has indicated that this particular area shows a need for more jobs. The nearest bus stop is 1.7 miles away, the nearest public park is 1.5 miles away, and the nearest grocery store is 1.8 miles away. The conditions of approval for this, if you choose to approve it, are the comments and conditions that were listed by the engineering department and the GIS department. And these are your potential motions for the annexation and zoning to RS6. I will stand for any questions.
Yes.
Just a quick question. As far as the value of this development, we've had conversations in the past as far as cost of service and whether the development would, in the homes that are being built, would be of a significant value to be able to cover cost of service. Do you feel that this development would do that?
Well, Councilman Haverfield, my feelings on the matter probably aren't as important. Ozzy has not had a chance to run this particular one. It was not on the list for the May 17 ones that he ran for us previously, so I have not seen the numbers on this one. I'm sorry.
So maybe, I'm sorry, Mayor. So as a question to you, Christie, do you know what the median value should be for a home to be able to meet that threshold?
I don't.
You don't know what that is?
No, I don't.
Thank you.
Can
Yes,
you
thank
tell us what the average cost of these homes is going to be?
That would be a question for the developer.
The developer, okay. So if there are no other questions for Christie, I would like to ask the developer, just right off the bat, if he knows what the average home cost is for these.
Matt Schultz, Mayor. It shocks me every time I hear the new prices coming out, but I would be surprised if these were under $400,000 a lot, or per home. They're going to range from the high threes to 500 in today's market. But it's changing, right? And it seems to be going up. And I live here, I've been here for 20 years, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I know that values are not being compromised on this subdivision. I know that.
Perfect.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
So as far as who are the remind me who the builders are?
This will be a CBH development, and that's why we brought some development agreement specifications on variety of homes. There was a concern that a production home builder may not have the variety that we need, that we may get more of with, say, 3 builders. And I know he does a good job, and I know he's going to do a really good job on this one because we've committed to some examples as well as written guidelines. And I know that's a commitment to write it up. And I think there's another builder out there that's kind of made it hard for other production home builders to, given some of us a bad name. And I'm not going to mention any names, but it's not my client.
So Matt, every third house is not going to look the same.
No, we can put that in the development agreement. I mean, I wouldn't even say third. I'd say, 8 or 10, but whatever.
I would love that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's certainly something we have the foundation to add one more item to that development agreement if you need to.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Before you sit down. So when you're talking about a development agreement, are you talking about the conditions of approval that have been placed in our staff report?
This is a specific, and we do these from time to time, development agreement that runs with the land. It's recorded through the land that essentially outlines some special conditions of approval that run with the land, no matter who builds in it, who buys in it, that it attaches architecture, it actually reattaches the staff conditions of approval. And anything else that say somebody can go back and say, hey, I got it zoned RS6, so I can change it however I want within their RS6. It's like, no, you're attached to this site plan, you're attached to this architecture, you're attached to these things unless you come back for a new public hearing. So the development agreement is like the belt and suspenders on the conditions of approval. And we do these all over the place.
So the development agreement that you're talking about, I don't see it in our packet.
It was part of the, there were some proposed conditions of approval attached to my update letter. It was like a fourth page. It said proposed architect. Yeah, was that in there, Christy? It's in there. It was attached to my letter. It was the last page, and it was referenced in my letter. Some of the proposed variations and really and some of these came to be probably about 15 years ago. And I see this in Meridian. I've seen it in Caldwell. I've seen other places. These same architectural conditions that came about to avoid the straight box, straight up and down, 2 windows in the front. I mean, it's to avoid that look, which we all hate. And so and my client does not do that look anyways, but just in case, it's here now, so.
I was wondering if that should be included in a motion.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is a public hearing, and I think we'll move into that portion. And do we have anyone signed up? Okay. So Matt is the only person that has signed up. Is there anyone here that had intended to sign up to speak on behalf of this item? Seeing none, do we have any additional questions for Matt Schultz, our applicant?
Mayor?
Yes.
I have one. And it might actually be for both of you. With the proposed timing of this development and the traffic improvements, how do we anticipate that lining up or not? Because Middleton and Orchard is very busy.
Right. Mayor and Councilman
Mucci.
Munchy. We did do a traffic impact study, and that is rolled into the Public Works conditions of approval that we need to, in addition to providing impact fees, which we provide for regional type improvements wherever the city sees fit to spend them in a given year. Also at our Orchard entrance, we're putting in a turn lane on our dime, in addition to the impact fees for where you guys want to spend them later, which will be at that main intersection someday. Not sure when that's planned in your CIP. But.
And Daniel can speak to that.
Dan.
Yes. But are there any other, well, I'll leave the public hearing open just in case there's another question for Mr. Schultz. Daniel, thank you.
Mayor, Councilman Mucci, the Nampa Highway District has the project designed at Orchard and Middleton. They are on their final right-of-way issue that is marching its way through the Supreme Court. And from the last time I've spoken to them, they anticipate having that answer from the Supreme Court this summer, and then they would likely be under construction fall, winter, spring this next year.
Thank you, Daniel.
Daniel, thank you. Are there any additional questions for Mr. Schultz?
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
Just for clarification purposes, I'm looking at the letter that Matt referenced, and again, if we're tying a development agreement based upon his letter to the architectural character studies that have been provided to us, I think that needs to be included in the motion that goes forward.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. If there are no further questions for the applicant, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
What is the will of the council?
Mayor Kling, I'll make a motion to approve the annexation zoning to 6 single-family residential approval for Chase subdivision, 113 single-family lots and 13 common lots, also with conditions of approval, and also the development agreement set forth by Matt Schultz in the development agreement.
And Victor, well stated, thank you. I think they did adjust the lots down to 106 with the 13 common lots, but as presented.
As presented.
Okay. You covered everything else, I think. Good job.
Thank you.
Good job. Is there a second?
Go ahead. I will second the motion, and I will make this comment for Matt. That's not just a kiddie park. That's really a nice park amenity for that community and those that would be able to walk onto that area and use it. So appreciate your effort in creating that. It's truly a pocket park.
Mayor, I will also second that thank you for the improvements. I appreciate your presentation too and your caring about what happens in our community.
And I was going to say thank you after the vote, but I really appreciate you listening and, providing for a great subdivision for this community that has the open space. Thank you. Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
I'm going to say thank you again to Matt, what everyone else said, that you were listening to what our concerns were. And I'm torn in one area because I know that these homes, it looks like they're going to be beautiful. It looks like the development is going to be beautiful. But I also know that our citizens here in Nampa are not going to be able to afford those homes. And so it really, on that end, that I have a hard time balancing that, but I am going to reluctantly vote in favor.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd also like to say thanks, Matt. I know that you took our feedback, and a couple acres of open space is a neighborhood. So thank you for that, and I hope we see more of that.
Any further comment? Seeing none, roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
And Rodriguez.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving to action item 6.3, this is annexation and zoning to RS6, zoning district for 3 county parcels, a residential subdivision to be platted at a future date that includes 90 buildable lots and 3 common areas. This is at 0, 0, and 2306 East Locust Lane for Sawtooth Land Acquisition. Is our applicant here this evening? Good evening. Thank you for sharing your name and address, and thank you for
Mayor,
being here.
council members, Dan Lardy, Levitt Associates, 1324 First Street South, Nampa, 83651. Good evening. I'm just going to wait for that to load.
Dan, what was your last name again?
Last name is Lardy, Lardie for the record.
Thank you.
A little easier to spell sometimes.
Just so I get it right. Thank you.
So again, this evening, we're only asking for annexation and the rezone of 23.39 acres. It's bordered by Locust Lane on the south, and then it is, does this, Rodney, does this work? Does it advance? I'm not sure. Oh, there it is. There we go. That's right. Go ahead and move forward one more, please. One more. There we go. All right, so on, let's see if this, make sure I don't blind anybody. I apologize you.
I don't think the.
Right, it doesn't
I
right on
don't
the
think the
point.
laser works, the forward and back does, but the laser.
I got it to work, but it doesn't really point on the screen. All right, so Locust Lane is on the south. We have county property to our east, the Stoddard Pathway on our east boundary also. We border a small leg on the northwest, the northeast of Islands, thank you. And then we have county property to our west with private lanes, private streets internally. Again, we're just showing this, we're not looking for an approval of this evening, we're just asking for annexation and rezone to RS6. So RS6 is actually on the islands up in the northeast. That's RS6. And then to our south across Locust Lane, the future land use shows it all as medium density. Our area here, the way it was originally in the comp plan, it shows it as low density. The neighbors to our west are all low density. They're all rural residential. And then the pieces in the middle are all acreage pieces. This area is ripe for development. Lava Springs is to its southeast. Lava Falls is directly east, past the pathway and past 2 other parcels. Thank you. That actually helps a little bit, at least for example purposes. So our access is the city so far has asked for it to be aligned with Chicago. And we are proposing an emergency access out to Shane. We're still working on the access portion of that. There's more to be had on that, more to be hashed out. More work to be done with the city. Otherwise, again, we're just asking for approval of annexation and rezone to RS6 with that, I'll stand for any questions. Because I'm sure I missed a bit.
Are there any questions from council at this time? I don't see any, so we'll wait for staff report, and then as you know, you'll come back.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Rodney, is this one yours? Yes. Okay.
We'll see if I can get mine to work. Nope. Oh, there we go. Good.
Okay, Mayor and Council, just quickly go over it. This might be a little bit better view for you for the area where it's located, Locust Lane on the southern end there. This is the comprehensive plan, future land use map, as he's indicated. It's in low-density residential designation. That's that yellow designation on the map there. And, but as you can see there, it is pretty close to medium density all around it. Our comp plan allows us to stretch to one parcel deep in any direction. There's 3 parcels here. They all butt up against medium density residential, and so it qualifies for the medium density stretch for all 3 parcels. On the east side there, of course, is the Stoddard Pathway, and that's managed by the city. That's the zoning. You can see the RS6 zone in the area, RS6 PUD to the southeast, and then RS 8.5 along the pathway. There are utilities generally available and in the area. And this was their original potential layout that they gave us. At Planning and Zoning, there was some concerns, as the applicant has mentioned, about the connection to the private roadway to the west. And that is, again, just to clarify there, it's not public right-of-way, it is a private road for that community. And so the condition that we have an emergency access out besides the one in, it would still remain. And as we've indicated, this is specifically for annexation and zoning. They would need to come back and meet all the conditions of preliminary plat and then final plat as well. And a lot of the conditions that were concerns would have to be worked out in order for that to move forward, such as the access to the property. So I've just highlighted the state code here, state and local codes for regulations regarding zoning and annexation. Those are all in your packet, so I'm not going to spend much time at all on that. Just wanted to indicate the square footage requirements for this zone, the minimum width, and the required street frontage. This is all in your packet, and I'd be happy to cover it in more detail if you need. So we did receive the comments from agencies, including the Nampa Engineering Division. Again, I will just kind of skip over these. These are all in your packet, but I would like to cover the public comments that we've received. So the first of these was from Debbie Peterson, who represented the Shannon Circle. I'm not sure it's actually an HOA, but it is the Shannon Circle Development, and they have an agreement for road maintenance for their development. And so she expressed concerns about the access and the egress from the site to Locust Lane and possibly Shane Drive. They were concerned about that at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. They also were concerned that if we provide access to this new development, it eliminates or makes it difficult for the bus stop that is in that area to continue. Locust Lane traffic was also a concern, and they claimed that this was inconsistent with the existing development, which is a third of an acre to an acre lots in the area, and so they didn't feel like it was compatible. They also had concerns about the impact of new development on water quality of the existing properties in their subdivision. We got an updated letter, June 14th, that's in your packet. Happy to cover all of those if you'd like, but some of it was a repeated concerns. They did go back to their board and they voted on June 14th to that they did not want to have this project connect to their roadways and use Shane Drive or any other roadways. And again, that's a private road that, and again, the applicant would need to work out those details before they were able to submit a preliminary plat to the city. I will skip over the rest of that. I think most of that is a repeat of what we talked about. I did want to cover just F on number 2, concerns about the city of Nampa annexing Shannon Circle into the city. So I'll cover that in a minute, a response to that. We also had comments from these 5 individuals, and those concerns are all outlined in your packet. Again, primarily talking about traffic, access, but also concerns about the compatibility. And then I'd just like to point your attention to 5A and B. These were 2 specific questions they asked. Will 2-story homes be permitted in the proposed subdivision? And B, will blasting of rock be permitted? David Bill's comment was just recent. He's a property owner in the area, and he suggested he give support to the project, but he also pointed out that there's the need for the 2 accesses that would need to be given here. And then also a request that the city pathway be required along Partridge Lateral. And I'll address that in a little more detail because that's a little bit confusing. And then Tammy Allen and Jeff Henry provided their comments there, and I've included that in the packet as well. They were concerned about irrigation water and just their quality of water in the area, so we can address that. Oh, and they also requested to just generate slow growth for the city right now. Okay, so a quick staff analysis of these comments. Land uses, this, as I've mentioned, it complies with the comprehensive plan. It is in a low density designation, but there's medium density around it. It is up to the will of the council. If it is the will of the council to approve this, you would just need to conclude that it's the appropriate location. Safe routes to school, I've outlined those not within walking distance at this location. Access, they will have to provide it at platting. Bus stops, I just want to caution us that denying a development solely on the basis that an existing bus stop wouldn't be able to continue is not really a valid legal reason for denial. We have to base it on our conclusions of law. And bus stops are rotated and changed quite frequently throughout the city depending on development as it occurs. And then Partridge Lateral, I've got a map I'll show you, but this specific leg is a section of the Partridge Lateral that we don't have planned a pathway on. Just to the north, we do, and we've already constructed that pathway. So I can show you that drawing here. This is our pathway map. The dashed line is where we propose to have new pathways or on-road bike facilities. And just a little bit closer view here, you can see where the arrow is pointing is the Partridge Lateral, and it's the top of the parcel that's being proposed for development right now. The Partridge Lateral to the north, just one parcel to the north of that arrow, is where the existing Partridge Lateral pathway is, and it connects to the Wilson Ponds all the way over to the Stoddard pathway. I've taken my Boy Scouts on this trip tons of times, and it's great. So it really doesn't serve a great purpose to extend the pathway here, except maybe for this development. And so it's not on our master plan. We would not take responsibility of this pathway. So these are the recommended conditions. They're in your packet. And I've placed the potential motion on the screen for your consideration. Be happy to answer any questions.
Mayor Kling? Rodney, the three common area lots, what percent of the overall site is, do they represent? What percent?
So, Mayor and Council, because the preliminary plat isn't being submitted yet, we didn't do a full analysis of that. It was just conceptual in nature. So I would ask that you perhaps ask the applicant here and see if he knows of that percentage. But we will do a full analysis at the stage of when they submit their preliminary plat.
As an example, the prior development, we saw a preliminary plat. We weren't really pleased with it, asked for consideration of more open space. And is that consideration still to be had in this approach? If we allow the change in zone, are we still going to be able to see a plat that represents what they're hoping to build in the common areas that will be provided for their area?
Mayor and Councilman, that is a great question and a great comment. I think if you would like, one of my concerns in our process is that if you come in and get it zoned, you don't see the details of that development. So I would encourage you, if you want to see a specific amount of open space and specific criteria associated with this, you attach a development agreement to this project.
To tonight's hearing?
You could direct us to draft a development agreement that would come back for your approval at a later date.
So I have a quick question for legal then. I just wanted to make sure that when we're not looking at any plat, but we're just strictly looking at that, and I think, Rodney, you've answered the question, what are we to take into consideration tonight in the approval? But I think you just heard Rodney's response, and it sounds like a good direction. Is that correct, how we need to proceed?
Madam Mayor, as far as what you consider, it is an annexation, so you have a large amount of discretion. Then your comprehensive plan, that's part of the analysis, and then if you do have specific conditions you want to include on that annexation, then it should be included in a development agreement.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Question for legal then, should we, we're being presented with a motion that includes 90 buildable lots. Does any motion tonight need to have that listed? If we're asking for it to come back before us, it might be that there may be a few less than that if there's more open space. Do we want to leave the 90 buildable lots as a part of this motion?
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Haverfield, typically with a development agreement, you include some kind of concept plan, and that could address, or you could address that in the number of lots. If you feel like 90 is too many, you can give some direction on what they might come back with for that development agreement, and can handle that via the development agreement coming back, as Rodney mentioned, or continue this to bring that back as well.
So, Mayor, one final question for Rodney. Do you know what percent of development area the last subdivision that came in provided?
I don't specifically. I could ask Christie and get that information before the end of this public hearing, though.
So in fairness to the prior developer coming through,
Yeah.
should we postpone this decision, keeping the public hearing open to allow the presentation to us to include that as a part of their presentation, or should we try to make a motion with a development agreement that lists a certain area that's yet to be determined?
Mayor and council, I guess I would look to you for that direction. Either of those two directions is valid.
So I think what I'm hearing from legal is that a motion could be, but we haven't heard public hearing yet, so we're a little early to be considering where we're going to go. So you know what, I'd like to pause this discussion because this actually isn't discussion time. I'd like to shift over to public hearing and then we'll come back and have this particular discussion. Does anyone have any other just questions for Rodney? Councilwoman Levi, yes.
Thank you. And I think this would go toward Rodney, and maybe I need to direct it at the applicant. So I'm noticing code enforcement said that the listed property 2306 East Locust has the following violations. Annexation not recommended until the issues are remedied. Now, this was dated back in April, and I know that there were 3 pieces of property listed, so it says 2 of them don't have any violations. But it does leave for the one that ends with the 60,000. I believe that's what it is. My eyes are bugged out from looking at the glare there. So do you know if those the violations have been cleared up? And my concern comes in the fact that they're just looking for annexation and zoning tonight. So that property could potentially just sit there for years, and then we're going to have continued code violations.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, this has been an issue that I've talked with code enforcement about in the past, trying to resolve this, because what they don't want to see is a property coming into the city that already has problems, and then as you've pointed out clearly, it just continues on, and now it becomes our problem, even though nothing's being built on the property. And so their proposal is to say, at least let's start with annexing it in at the time that it is in compliance with city code. And so that is their request, and that could definitely be included as a condition of approval, that they clean up the property and meet our standards, our codes, before we finalize the annexation ordinance. And that's possible. It's also a little bit challenging because once a development occurs, that problem goes away. And so if you go in and you cut down all the weeds and clean up the property, and then just a short time later, you're going back in to tear up the ground and start fresh, it's kind of a waste of time to do all that work. And so I guess you have to balance those things out, and perhaps it may be best to give a time frame for cleaning up the property or developing the property.
Thank you. And my second question, if I might please, is for clarification purpose. So surrounding is low density.
Correct, immediately.
And this project would be medium density?
Correct.
And I understand that you said that we can stretch out that future land use of our comprehensive plan, but does that necessarily make it compatible with the surrounding land use?
Good question. And that is a determination the council will have to make. Yeah, you can see to the southern boundary there. These are mostly, if you move forward one slide, you can see that these are primarily county property, a little bit larger lot parcels. And so even though our medium density designation on the comprehensive plan is there just south of Locust Lane, it may not mean that that's exactly what's currently there. That's just a future plan. So is it compatible with the existing county lots? That's a question that I'm not able to answer.
So maybe you can answer this quickly for me without me having to go finger through this then. Is there an overview map or topographical that shows, like, for instance, this lot is 1.2 in the surrounding, and these lots would be proposed to be 0.56 or whatever? I know we used to do that at the county P&Z, and that was very, very helpful.
Yeah, I haven't done that, but that is a great idea.
Okay, thank you. I'm just kind of the visual parts taking over. So thank you.
Rodney, I have an additional question, and that is, in the comments that were during your presentation, there were concerns over water quality.
Yeah.
Can you help me understand, is this going to be connected, and why are there to city water?
Right. Yeah, Mayor, this would be connected to city water. And the comments were from a county development and concerns from property owners in that county development. It's difficult to communicate this because they're used to a well pulling water from the specific area right there, and they're used to septic tanks that could potentially contaminate the area. And so our system is not designed the same way, right? Our system is unique in that the water could be coming from a significant distance away.
So this is city water, city sewer?
Correct.
So no septics, no wells, so
There's-
it's all city water, city, which is exactly what you want. You
Right.
do not want any additional,
Right.
anything going in there. Yep.
That's correct. And they did have concerns, I forgot to address this, but they did have concerns about us annexing them in. I would just say that that's so rare, I have actually never seen it when I've been here at the city. But it's a potential, but it just doesn't happen very often, if at all.
Well, that would be considered a forced annexation, and that's something I don't support that, so.
Mayor, just
we
one
would do.
question. Does this meet your definition of sprawl?
Boy, you put me into some tough spots here.
Or does it meet your definition of infill?
Yeah,
That's a question. Is it sprawl or
You
is
can
it
go either
infill?
way. I mean,
Because,
I
yeah.
think
So-
council members and most people know my philosophy on those type of things, but I don't
Well-
want to entertain, I just want to ask the question.
Yeah, so sprawl is when our city expands and takes up more and more land on the periphery, but that is in a way that's not sustainable. An RS6 designation is at least small enough parcels that, that you're confining people into a more confined area. And yeah, this is on the edge of the community, but how else do you grow except for infill? Right? At some point, you're going to have to grow on the periphery of your community, but you need to do it smart. You need to do it the right
County
way.
surrounds all four directions, correct?
Yes, the only place that it is connected, and as you can see on the screen there, is that top right-hand corner, that northeast corner.
You've answered my question.
Yeah.
However, to me, when I look at this is, to me, it's infill versus sprawl. Because sprawl is, as you said, when you're going out in the county and you're going beyond current subdivisions, this is surrounded by subdivisions. So, which is the concern, of course, probably with those that oppose it. So, are there any other questions for Rodney before we move into public hearing? Sure, we'll be back.
Okay.
Thank you, Rodney. Okay, this is a public hearing, and I believe we do have people signed up to testify this evening. So let's begin with, I'll let you read those.
Bill Hutchinson?
And Bill, as you come forward, I'll just tell everybody that's here this evening, we have 3 minutes. When you come, please share your name and your address, and then we look forward to hearing from you.
I'll do my best, and I
Thank you.
apologize if I'm loud, that's just me. Well, honestly, guys, I think a lot of the questions you've just asked pretty much identify what we're doing. We are putting the cart before the horse with this project. The project itself has some significant problems, including the fact that it is in violation of the city engineering code. With respect to the access point, can we go back to that green map? Basically, what's happened is this developer's bought a landlocked piece of property. He's forcing this development by buying that little leg consisting of the 3 lots you're looking at, which are less than 10% of the overall property that was purchased. The big piece was 21.19 acres. His little piece, I think, came out to 2.10. Well, the problem that we have is Shane Street's a private drive, and what's not showing on the other side of Shane Street is what's called Nay Street. Your own engineering standards and your own engineer has called Locust a principal artery. The engineer for the development has called it a principal artery. And to have minimum branching space on the same side of feet for an artery and a local street is 500 feet. Their own engineers have measured out that it's 214 feet from their proposed street entrance at Chicago to Shane Street. If you connect that over to Nay Street, it's another 129 feet. So we now have 3 roads within that 500-foot section. That does not meet your own engineering criteria. Gosh, Craig Swap, Lister Frost, all those guys, they're going to be lining up for the first car accident that happens out there. So again, we have a situation where they bought landlocked property, doesn't meet the engineering criteria, and that's why you heard all the humming and hawing over Shane Street. Shane Street's not up for grabs, our community is not giving it up, it's our private drive. So they're gonna have to come up with some different plan. The next thing that I'd like to state is that, you know, again, you look at this development and they're cramming 90 houses into this small area that they just made touch the city. It's all really nice rural area around this, and to have 90 houses with no parks in it, I mean, it's set up terrible. Annex this at a later date, get the plans in your hands first to make sure that everything is legal, make sure it's right. It's their property, it's gonna get annexed eventually, but you guys are sticking your neck out there right now from a legal standpoint. You don't know what you're buying, you're signing a blank check. So do yourself a favor, wait on the annexation, get all the facts first, get your plat first, get your parks where you want them, and then you can sign off on this, and that's gonna solve you guys a whole lot of hassle. All right, 30 seconds remaining. Really, that's all I have, other than the fact that I did want to add, again, conditions are for approval, applicant owners to comply with all city codes, policies, and standards. Again, your engineering standards are not being complied with. And also, Ms. Levy, in answer to your question, yeah, there still are people living on the trailer in that property. I pass it every day on Shane Street, so yeah, it's still in violation. Thank you much. Did I get my address for you? Oh, I'm sorry, 3505 Wheeler Circle. I'm the closest home to the new development. Thank you.
Great job, thank you.
Mayor,
Yes,
can we get clarification from Daniel on?
at the end of public testimony, we will. So Daniel, thank you for making notes. I appreciate that. Next person.
Carolyn King.
And Carolyn, thank you for giving us your address as you come.
My name is Carolyn King, and I live at 2518 East Locust Lane. And my main concern is the delivery of my irrigation water. We have had gates in this country that come from the canals, and my ditch comes right down Shane Drive. And the way the land lies, it has to come that way, and I just want to make sure that my delivery of irrigation water is not compromised or changed in any way. And I'm not the only one that uses on that too, by the way. That's all my concern, so please keep that in mind.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Appreciate you sharing that. And our next person is?
Debbie Peterson.
Hello.
Hello. I'm short, so I have to go like that. All right, so I'm Debbie Peterson. My address is 2123 Patrice Drive, Nampa, 83686. And I mean, you guys addressed a lot of the issues. I had a lot of my issues up on the board there. I'm here speaking for our Shannon Circle Road Users Association, and it is a private road. It's not an HOA. We pay road users fees and have for the last 20 years to continue to maintain the road. As noted on my list, the issue with being access, I think everybody's kind of addressed that. Bill spoke to that pretty well. As far as school bus, I know that you guys know that that's not a big issue, but the problem with our location is there's really no other safe place to move the bus stop. So if you go too far to the west, it's a hill, a blind hill, which puts the kids at really, in peril as far as a safe area. And then if you have all these other exiting cars, it's another issue if you're going to the east. So it is an area for us parents. We actually have children who actually get off the bus on Locust, walk through our neighborhood, go back up out of the other side of our neighborhood, go back onto Locust, because Locust itself is not safe to walk on. So we've got these kids having to circle through our neighborhood that don't even live in our neighborhood right now. So, and then as far as the current state of Locust, it's basically, obviously, it's an improved paved road, but as far as has no shoulders, has no sidewalks, it has no street lights. It's not safe to add that much more traffic. We've already added Lava Springs first, which was a lot of traffic, and now they're adding Lava Falls, which we have not seen the traffic from yet. I don't know how many houses are in there, but that's just east of us, and then adding another 90 houses on this little small road without trying to improve it first, putting in maybe a center turn lane, some lights, and we have the Stoddard pathway, and there's no light there. It's like the little flags that get faded, and you can't hardly see people until you almost hit them. I mean, so those are issues right now. And then as far as the contiguous and compatible, we've talked about that. most of us have half acres to an acre lots around there. We all understand that development's going to happen, but there's no reason that they can't try to make it a little bit more compatible to a rural area, instead of just sticking in a bunch of houses in something that really is a nice area. I mean, that's why we moved there. And so the other issue being water concerns, he was talking about the fact that the city was going to be putting in water and septic. That's not our concern. The concern is that this whole area is full of lava, and they're going to have to blast. We just want to make sure that our wells and our septics don't go bad because of the development they're going to have to do so close to us, okay? So let me see, I got a few more minutes. You already addressed the annexation, so I think that's it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
All right, you have a good day.
Kevin and Carol Nelson, it says they're opposed and they do not wish to speak.
Are you here this evening? You're just listening? Okay, thank you so much.
Don Wheeler?
My address is 3918 Chicago Street. So directly across from where they're proposing, people are going to be coming in and out of this subdivision. And that becomes our biggest challenge, is Locust is becoming hugely busy as it is with the new subdivisions. Now we're talking about yet another one. And clearly we've addressed, and people are concerned about the fact that they're talking about one road. The other thing is, as this would be one more addition with major traffic on Locust, Locust would be hard to develop, widen, because of the irrigation systems, the canals, at the major areas. Locust and Southside, Locust and South Power Line, you also have the fish hatchery, you have Wilson Pond, you have all of that. Trying to widen and make Locust more reasonable for yet another subdivision is going to be really challenging and expensive to be done. And yeah, just like most of the rest of us, how about fewer people? We like our area, we like it's kind of pushing it with the Lava Springs and Lava Falls, which are fairly small lots. Having yet another one that's tangentially connected to the city, and landlocked. I don't know how else or where else they're going to go with the road. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Edward and Elke Adams? They're marked as opposed and do not wish to speak. John Winchester, again. It says it's neutral and then also does not wish to speak.
And that's you?
Correct.
Okay.
Mary Ann Van Brake does not wish to speak and is undecided.
Just observing, thank you.
Okay.
And then Warren Eddy. Marked as opposed.
Most as opposed. Okay. Is that everyone? Okay. Is there anyone else that had wanted to, that didn't get signed up, that had intended to speak this evening? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone.
Question though, is that okay to ask?
I'm going to turn to legal. Typically, we do not. You know what? Since you're signed up to speak but didn't speak, why don't you use your opportunity to come forward, because you can do that. Yes.
Just clarification.
Oh, that's good.
3520 Wheeler Circle, Mary Ann Vanderbrake, thank you. So I'm understanding that the process is, we are trying to see if we want to change low density to a medium density. And I think that's what's on the plate right now. And I just wanted to make sure that's what we're looking at. And that was my question, I guess.
Okay, thank you. And it is proposed to, well, first of all, around it is low density. And so Rodney, I'd like you to answer that question so that it's accurate, rather than me trying to respond to that. Thank you.
Mayor and council, The item before you is not to change the designation on our comprehensive plan from medium density to low density. A comprehensive plan, future land use map boundaries are intended to be flexible. They are not intended to be hard and fast. And so they are completely within their rights to apply for this zoning because they are near medium density residential. That help that?
Because they're near it.
Because they're next to it. They're abutting medium density residential.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
Let me ask Rodney a question.
Yes, you may.
What zoning would be for low density?
So RS 8.5 is the highest medium density. So anything over that would be a low density. RS 12, RS 22, RS 18. Yeah, those are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this would be an opportunity for our applicant to come back, and I'm sure you wrote notes and to respond to some of the comments or to have any closing comments.
Madam Mayor, Dan Lardy, 11 Associates, 1324 First Street South. Do we need a clarification from Daniel on, or can that, does that happen after I speak?
We'll have him come after you speak,
All
and
right.
then, but we won't close public testimony till after we hear from Daniel.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. So some of the comments that I have, so delivery of the irrigation. Delivery of the irrigation will be required to comply with state code, which requires that we still provide irrigation. It still gets delivered the same, or to the property. So that's one. The bus stop location, again, Rodney spoke to that. It can be flexible. I understand the concern. Councilmember Everfield also had mentioned about open space and trying to incorporate some of those things. And I think we'd be open to some of those if we had some direction from city council or even planning staff on that particular item. Water concerns, I think blasting was the biggest issue. There is a large finger of rock through there. Blasting has been used in this location to remove the rock. Lava Springs was rock sod. Lava Falls has been blasted without any detriment to the surrounding wells. So as long as we do it by written rules and specifications, I don't think that's a problem. Let's make sure. And then some of the concerns were about Lava Springs and Lava Falls, and some of those are really old subdivisions. Lava Springs, I know, is it's just gotten built out, but it was actually approved back in 2004 by this body. And Lava Falls was approved in 2006. And then, yes, it just got built out, and it's been zone changed a couple of times to try and meet something that they were trying to do there. So it's not new. Yes, they are new homes, and they have been kind of more on the forefront. So I appreciate that, but I think that's all the notes I have. Madam Mayor, did you take better notes than I did?
I think you've actually addressed most of the issues. So I think that we'll let Daniel address the access with the road and the distances that were referenced.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So, thank you.
Mayor, City Council, the gentleman referencing the engineering standards is correct. The roadway standards, the access management standards do call for a 500-foot separation on the same side. That being said, not all properties fit within that standard. Not all properties are able to, based on existing developments and what those properties on either side happen. And so what we do as we look at those is in those areas where we are not able to meet those standards, we require that, and this would be something that would happen with the preliminary plat, that they would be required to have a traffic engineer do a study of that corridor. And in this instance, we would be looking at those three streets, Nay Street, Shane, and then the proposed new street. And
do an evaluation of the turning movements and whether turn lanes are needed and what other safety issues need to be done to make that corridor safe. So it's not unheard of for those standards not to be adhered to 100%. But when we're unable to do that, we do require safety mitigations to make sure that they do not become a safety problem in the future.
Would those safety measures be done at the expense of the developer?
Correct.
Okay, fully?
Yes.
Okay. Council, do you have, I'm sorry, any other questions?
I'm looking at my notes as well. There was some discussion on traffic and the ability or the need for Locust Lane to be widened to accommodate this development. I will say that at the intersection and those safety mitigations, there may need to be turn lanes installed to facilitate allowing that street within that proximity. But from a general rule, that two-lane road there has plenty of capacity for the traveling between the intersections, and then the intersections themselves are typically where our bottlenecks are.
Thank you, Daniel. Councilman Haverfield?
Daniel, in looking at this proposed plan, obviously the access onto Locust Lane is in a cross alignment with Chicago. So that's appropriate.
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, that is desirable, correct?
Right. So my question is, since the subdivisions to the west of this development, they're in the county, correct?
Correct.
So Shane Street is a private road in the county. So to be able to maybe solve, and again, I'm not trying to solve everything, but to be able to tie Shane Street together with this new street in cross alignment with Chicago, we can't terminate a private lane accessing onto Locust Lane. So if our desire is for those two to share one access, the proper place would be in cross alignment with Chicago, would it not?
From an access management standpoint, Councilman Haverfield, that is correct. However, you are correct. We don't have the authority to terminate that existing private access. If it were me as the developer, that would certainly be something I would try to negotiate with those property owners, though we have heard, I think, firmly from them that they are not interested in doing that.
So making that a condition of approval doesn't matter because we can't make it a condition of approval.
Correct. We have no authority over that private road.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions for Daniel or the applicant?
Mayor?
Yes?
Who's the developer or builder of this proposed?
Mayor, Councilman Mucci. The developer is Sawtooth Acquisition. The developer, or the builder, is the same builder that's in Lava Falls, and I apologize, I don't know who that is.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
I have a question for Rodney, if he can come back up. Because I've given him ample time to come up with an answer to this question. Have you talked to Christie yet to figure out what the percent?
I forgot, I'm sorry. I will, do you want me to text her right now? I can get that, I forgot to do that.
Again, this is a condition, a potential condition of approval if we
Yeah.
move down that path.
So I'll, just a reminder that our new code that we're proposing, that minimum would be, it's 5% at the bare minimum of the amount of open space would be required. So if you want to go above that or below that, that's up to you.
I'm just looking at parity on a prior approved subdivision. If it was 15%, whatever percent that was, that's what I'd like to know.
Yeah, and Tom, I guess I'd look to legal. Is it possible to just tie a percentage to another development? Like, for a development agreement here, could we tie it to the same percentage as the previous development?
I guess it would be known. I would certainly prefer it be specified to this project versus.
I'm uncomfortable with reaching up and grabbing a number.
What's the number? Wow, 17%.
See?
Yeah.
Wasn't that hard?
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Levi?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for, I think, Daniel, because it comes under engineering, and I didn't know that he was going to be excused and we were going to bring the developer back up. I am looking under, the engineering department does not oppose these applications with the following comments and recommended conditions. And in my packet, it is 435, and it's number 12. Right before, number 11, right before annexation conditions. And it says Southwest District Health Department has voiced concerns regarding water quality within the Shannon Circle and Rose Hill Heights subdivision to the west, indicating a potential need to convert to city systems when available. Utilities should be spread to the Shannon Circle subdivision upon property development and sewer kept as deep as possible to facilitate potential further extension. Could you explain that to me? Because I'm thinking in light of earlier concerns about water quality, and I don't know that it was really answered.
Mayor, Councilman Levi, and I've had experience myself with Southwest District Health and those county developments. Over the years, the amount of lava rock there and the depth and location of the wells and the septic systems in that area have created concerns for Southwest District Health based on testing of those wells, that there are wells that are not, that are contaminated based from the septic systems in the area. And so in order to, with a development going there, they would be required under standard practice, but we called it out specifically because of that knowledge and discussions with Southwest District Health, that city and water and sewer need to be stubbed to these developments. So at some point in the future, when those issues become such that either the residents desire to get off of their individual wells and septics, or if Southwest District Health were to need to take an action to protect the public health, that those services would be there and available to serve that development.
Thank you. And I wanted that more than anything so that the people here understood that they weren't being forced to do that. So thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
Question.
Yes.
Two, actually. Daniel?
Yep.
As a reminder, 2 points, or 2 access points are required for lots exceeding 35?
More than 29, and so with the plating action, they will be required to figure out how they get that, whether they are able to ultimately negotiate an emergency access for police and fire out to those private roads, or if they have to come and find another location to be able to bring a secondary access out. That would be up to them prior to them actually applying for the preliminary plat.
If they exceed 29.
If they exceed 29, yes.
And then my final question then, the Stoddard pathway, it's in the city limits, is it not?
Yes.
So connectivity to the city limits is the whole eastern boundary of this.
Well, yes.
Thank you.
So I have a question. So if this were to be annexed in, could we then, I think I heard you say there would be a requirement to stub in both water and sewer to this subdivision to the west?
We would require it to be stubbed to the boundary of the subdivision so that it could be picked up by the Shannon Circle subdivisions there in the future when needed.
Okay.
And you had asked about the builder, and I'm almost there. Mark slowed the network down, I'm sure. Let's see. Builder, so Blast Properties LLC. So I'm not sure who that, but that's who is the applicant on the building permits.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the applicant at this time? If there are not, I'll stand for a motion to close public hearing. All in favor? What is the will of the council? This is actually the opportunity to get to discuss.
Mayor, I just, a very short and brief. Until I see the plat, development agreement, and conditions of approval, I will not be voting yes on this.
Thank you. Yes.
Likewise with Darrell. I'd like to see something, this council's been in agreement with kind of what Randy's talking about with the green space, park area, things like that. I'd like to see it before I vote to approve it.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
I'm very reluctant to approve this tonight without the 2 points or access points being provided for us, being that we're being asked to approve up to 90 buildable lots. We can't allow that. I mean, our own ordinance requires the 2 points of access, and that's not being provided. It's being, it's an ongoing process. So that was my desire to allow them to have the same amount of time we had Matt Schultz, as far as, and to go back to maybe work with these folks that live in and around him, or around this property, and maybe come up with a better plan. But right now, I won't be supporting any motion to approve this annexation and zoning as presented to us this evening.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'm going to make a motion to deny the annexation and zoning to RS6 for the 3 county parcels for residential subdivision to be platted at a future date. Because the project fails, I think there's just too many unknowns right now, and it's not compatible without having many of the questions answered that we still have.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Yes.
I'm going to support that motion, mostly because of what I've heard for tonight. There's issues that are very important to us, or to me. And that's number one, property rights, water rights, irrigation, and access to private roads. And I think we have to hold those dear to our hearts, because that's what it's all about. And so I will be supporting the denial.
Is there any further comment? Roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes is what the motion was where we're denying. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer, Levi, and
Yes.
Macho.
Yes.
I just want to say, I so appreciate the testimony tonight and how respectful you were. That's important, and you guys did a really good job. You were respectful, you did your homework, and that just makes our jobs easier. And to a developer, I will say, though, something to think about that may not be all bad in the future. The cost of stubbing in septic and water is high. And so that might be something to think about in the future of what happens there, because if you do have failures and Southwest District Health comes in and says you've got to connect, there is something to think about. I just say just to think about. But you guys, I appreciated how respectful you were and doing your homework as you came in. So thank you so much. And I think we're done with that item. And, you know, we do have 2 more public hearings. I think we are going to take a quick break. So we'll take a 10-minute break. Thank you. Okay, so I think we're ready to go with public hearing 6.4. This is an action item for annexation and zoning to light industrial for manufacturing, compounding, processing, and or treatment of building materials, including organic non-animal materials to be used for animal bedding, mulch, and composting by Timber Creek Recycling at 0 Northside Boulevard. This is for Properties, and this is Thompson LLC representing John Chapman. And are you our applicant? Okay, thank you. Go ahead and come in and state your name and address. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'm Becky McKay with Engineering Solutions, 1029 North Rosario in Meridian, business address. We're going to kind of do a two-pronged presentation, and then my client has a little 2-minute video to kind of give you an overview of his operation. Timber Creek Recycling has been in business since 2011. I worked closely with Mike on his Meridian site. One of the things that is unique about this particular piece of property is it's very triangular in shape. And it sits there adjacent to 2 principal arterials, which is Northside and Cherry. The property adjoins the sugar beet factories, bio-waste area. It's along the railroad tracks. It's kind of been a parcel that's been designated industrial in your comprehensive plan. And has sat vacant for many, many years. And I think that's probably due to the shape of it and the limited uses that could go in this particular area. Mike McGurdio is here this evening to kind of go into more specifics on it, but obviously recycling is important to our communities, both Canyon County and Ada County. We have limited capacity in our landfills, and so any materials, building materials, animal waste materials that we can keep out of our landfills and that we can recycle and create some type of a usable material is beneficial to us all. Obviously, lowering our carbon footprint is one of the key things that all of our communities are looking at, and reducing our methane gases, extending our sustainable agricultural practices, and obviously providing some type of organic compost that can be used by the community. Mike, in his facility out in Meridian, I toured it a couple of different times. I was extremely impressed by how tidy it was, how organized it was. None of the piles were over 25 feet in height. It was in full compliance with DEQ requirements, full compliance with the fire code. They run a very, very tight ship. And I'll kind of turn it over to Mike to give you more information so we don't run out of time.
Mike McGurdio, managing member of Properties, Thompson Road LLC, 7695 South Locust Grove, Meridian, Idaho, 83642. I also am the managing member of Timber Creek Recycling. We are an organics recycling company, construction wood. We have both the Ada County landfill and Canyon County landfill wood diversion and organics diversion at those 2 sites. We recycled about 200 million pounds last year. We were awarded an award from DEQ for pollution prevention champion because of the volume of work we do, and then also how we recycle the materials. So like animal byproducts, so like you get a food manufacturer that makes a certain type of tortilla or whatever. We take that, their rejects, and we deem whether it's necessary, safe to feed to an animal with a nutritionist. So we kind of go, does it go into our compost pile? Does it go into an animal feedstock? And so we work with a nutritionist on that. But if you'd play that YouTube video so you kind of get an overview of our equipment and kind of how the process goes of how we recycle some of this stuff. I believe so. I think that's kind of an overview of kind of what we do, and I think we stand for questions.
I have a couple of questions for you. I was just trying to pick up, you had mentioned using used tortilla shells. I didn't see mounds of those laying out there, but I did pick up in your presentation that it's wood products, manure, those type of things. And what you do is consolidate those in such a way that you can turn them around for nutrient capability to the agricultural community, is that, and then possibly in crops as well for nutrient.
Correct. So your tortillas or bread or whatever is a reject of the facility, usually DEQ has a regulation to where if it hits the ground, it's no longer allowed for human consumption. So we would then, it's still a good tortilla enough for animal use. So we take those tortillas or whatever the food product is. and
That's not in those mounds of,
No, that's not in those mounds. Well, it is, some of it is in those mounds. Like if we take like Boise City's 20 Mile South Farm, we will take some of their overflow. So when their site is full or they have an issue with their site, we're an overflow for them. So in their composting program, curbside, they have, green waste, they have grass, they have small amounts of food waste in there, and that would all get ground up and commingled to the right carbon to nitrogen ratio into a pile to compost. And then the nutrients that was on that video, that's what we try and design. So we try and design that you have the right amount of grass, which would be your nitrogen base, and your wood, which would be your carbon base, and you combine them together to make it to where it's the plant will have the right uptake. I think it's like a 25-to-1 carbon to nitrogen ratio that the plant will be neutral to. If it's higher than that, so in other words, if you put a whole bunch of wood into the ground, it'll pull the available nutrients away from the plant to break down the carbon. Versus if you have something that's like 15-to-1, it'll actually serve the plant those nutrients.
so is the product you create liquid or a solid?
Solid.
Solid. I was just going to mention Performix. Maybe that's someone that's a competitor with you, but they have a similar product that's, it's basically looked at specifically to one herd or multiple herds where they can vary the nutrient levels based upon the need for that ranch or that, you're just putting it on the actual products themselves that they'll be eating or will be eating.
So, no. We take the tortilla becomes rejected from the plant. We direct haul those to the facility or the farm. And then the gentleman that you're talking to that owns that company, they have a completely different,
Processing.
Yeah,
But it's all contained.
Yes.
So the final question then would be, nothing that you're creating has any toxic nature to it?
No.
That would get into the soil, that would be a problem?
That would be a problem. And we're regulated by DEQ. So anything that any feedstocks we accept, DEQ has to approve those according to our plan and before we can even accept those materials.
Thank you.
You bet.
Yes, Councilwoman Levi.
Thank you, Mayor. I neglected to get your first name.
Mike.
Mike, thank you. Okay, so I understand that railroad runs through the property or by the property. Are you planning to take and access that?
Eventually.
Eventually, does that mean soon, or I'm looking at is this good use of that property? Because I know the railroad stubs are in need,
High demand, yes.
high demand, thank you.
Yep, and we intend to use it.
Okay. Another question is the grinders. I was noticing there were these 2 grinders. Is there a noise level, a decibel level? And what are your hours of operation, given the fact that there is large residential around you?
Yes, so we have done a noise study on our own place. So we put mufflers on that meet, do you remember, you have that sheet of paper that has that? I think it was on our other one. No, there should be another one. So we put mufflers on to reduce to where it's similar to like trucks, so we put the muffler size down to that. Should be in the old Meridian Council. Mhm. It's all right. It's all right. There it is. Maybe.
So yeah, one of the things that we did out at the Meridian site is Mike did purchase a commercial decibel meter, and we took it out and we went to different spots adjacent to the project. And the cars that were going down the roadways had a higher decibel reading than his equipment. And that was due to the fact that he spends a significant amount of money on what they call noise reduction mufflers for his grinders and his equipment. And so with the strategic location of the piles and where he put his equipment, you couldn't even hear it. And in this case, you couldn't see it because it was on the other side. As far as, the facility out there, there was extensive dust control, fire prevention plan. Here we'll be installing 15-foot landscape buffers along Cherry and along North Side. I think there's a 10-foot pathway that's designated along North Side that will be our responsibility. You currently have central services available in this area. The plan, there's a site plan that's in your packet. It has an office, it has scales, it shows you the composting and the various uses. As far as hours of operation, the typical hours of operation will be around 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., and that's Monday through Saturday. However, Mike needs some flexibility in the event that his contracts with like Republic Services or there's some type of need where they have to take some type of waste material in an emergency situation because it has to be diverted to his site, so he needs a little bit of flexibility that he could take that material in the event that were to happen. They will also be recycling concrete, asphalt, other items that we can keep out of the landfill and reuse. Sheetrock, for example, they use that as bedding out in the dairies, and they find that the cows have a significant decrease in mastitis and other infections. So there's multitude of uses, not only for the public to utilize in their garden as composting material and soil aid, but there's agricultural uses where, and when I was out there, they had a bin and it had bagels in it that were rejected, and they were grinding those up and used them as a supplemental cattle feed. So it's things that we would typically throw away, fill up our landfills, and Mike has been very creative. He's the most knowledgeable person I've ever met. We think this annexation is in the best interest of the city and the community of Canyon County to provide this service in your area, and we would hope that you'd support this annexation and rezone to IL.
So, thank you. You've answered some of my other questions, but I'm going to go back and finish if I might.
Yeah.
So if you are going to recycle cement and asphalt, that gets noisy. So what does that picture look like as far as your hours of operation and you have residential around you? And I'm guessing you're going to be crushing it?
So we would be running an impact crusher on those materials, and we would be running those in the hours of operation, but we would not go outside of those hours of operation that we mentioned. The only thing that we wanted outside of those hours of operation is there's a couple industrial places here in town that we're currently accepting materials from. We don't operate outside of those hours for collection. And that was one thing we wanted to, because that material is currently being dumped out in the desert, because there's no other facility that will take it during those hours. So we wanted to provide a service for those outside of those hours, just as an ability to come in and dump during those hours.
So another question, and Becky kind of touched on it, was the avenue for your products. Is it local, and how do people go about using your product? Do they have to buy it in the retail store? And you had mentioned, she had mentioned Republic Services. So what happens to your product after you've made it? Do we benefit as a city from that? I mean, the citizens, how do they obtain it?
So we sell to, a few different tiers. So one of them would be retail, so they could bring their materials in, and then we turn around and sell it right back to them as they came right back out. We also would sell to local wholesalers. We have many of the different wholesale companies. I'm not sure if I can say who their names are, but the main ones that you hear, not Home Depot or Lowe's, but some of the other big names here in town, we are selling to, and their bins are selling our products. So yeah, they would be able to get it there and locally on our site.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for our applicant? Okay. So Mike and Becky, as you know, you'll get to come back unless you'd like to answer the question right now that you found. Do you want to go ahead and answer it? You can, or we can come back to it.
These are just the decibel readings, and I could read you out, but they're in the 40s and 50s. I'm sure they can go a skosh higher, because I know some of the loaders, when you're right up next to them, are loud, but these are at the road, so they're pretty minimal and comparable to the other ones. So we've got that data if you'd like it.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, thank you. So we'll have you back after we do staff report and public hearing. So Rodney, thank you.
All right, Mayor and Council, as you've heard, the project is before you, and I'm not going to repeat that, but it is for approval or denial, and the Nampa Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval with all the conditions that are in your staff report. There we go. Comprehensive plan. It's right in the middle of our industrial area. Many of these properties in the immediate area have already been annexed into the city and zoned industrial, light industrial primarily. Proposed zoning is for light industrial. And there you can see the zoning that's currently in place. There are some heavy industrial zones. That's the purple on the screen there. The gray, the light gray is the light industrial. And then we have ag, which is the amalgamated sugar application of their waste to the land there. So I technically would think of that as similar to some industrial uses, but it is zoned ag. Okay, so just quickly, I wanted to cover the surrounding land uses. To the north is large lot residential, and it's hard to see that on that screen there, but let me go back to the, I believe there's a better shot of the area. There we go. There's some large lot residential to the north and farmland zoned IL. A lot of this is currently being farmed, but it's zoned for IL, and there are proposals for light industrial development in that area. To the south is undeveloped farmland, Canyon County, amalgamated sugar, bio-waste and storage, ag zoning, and IH, heavy industrial zoning districts. To the east is large lot residential and farmland, but annexed into the city and zoned as IL. West is amalgamated sugar, bio-waste and storage, and the ag zoning. Public utilities are available to the site, and you can see those locations there. The typical applicable regulations for annexation and zoning would apply. Those are in your packet. Conclusions of law that you would have to find to approve this development. And then some specific conditions for the IL zone. This was a little bit difficult to categorize, so I just wanted to point that out, how I determined to categorize this. Manufacturing, compound processing, assembling, packaging, treatment, and building materials. That was the only way I felt like that fit the best there. Okay, so correspondence, no significant impact for police department. Our engineering division made several comments there, and those are in your packet. The frontage improvements will be required. Number 5, traffic impact study is required if it meets that, that threshold of vehicle trips. They don't anticipate that it will reach that vehicle trip threshold, but they're just going to provide that information to engineering to confirm that. And then the other comments there, including the 10-foot side path to be constructed along Northside Boulevard. So these are our recommended conditions of approval, and I placed the potential motion for your consideration on the screen.
Mayor, are we allowed to ask the applicant another question? Okay. Yep, I'll wait.
I have a question for Rodney. So what are the frontage improvements required?
It's actually, there's only, they've offered the 15-foot landscape. We have a setback requirement of 10 feet in the IL zone, front setback.
That's kind of the discrepancy that I read and heard. But are we just talking about edge of asphalt? Are we talking about any curbing, any sidewalk? What is required out there as far as frontage improvements?
Oh, frontage improvements, yeah. So because it's in the city, sidewalk would be required and the curbing would be required, just like any other.
They're up to the north to Cherry Lane?
Is that not right? Well, we better get the expert up here then.
No, that's, okay.
Thank you, Daniel.
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, they will be required to do their sidewalk improvements. They are not required to do any frontage widening or curb gutter.
So the sidewalk, so we'd see edge of asphalt, some sort of
Blank area, they can treat that however they want, typically just a borrow ditch, and then the sidewalk at the outside section of the right-of-way.
So would that be a sidewalk wide enough for bicyclists to use?
In this case, the pedestrian path, the pedestrian master plan calls for a 10-foot sidewalk on that side, so yes.
And it would go up and then go to the west as well along the frontage?
Along their Cherry frontage as well. I don't believe that.
Only on north side is
Right.
the requirement for the 10-foot pathway.
So the sidewalk on Cherry would just be a 10-foot sidewalk, or a 5-foot sidewalk,
5
sorry.
foot.
Yes.
10 foot to a 5. What about ADA as far as access at any?
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, typically the ADA access as their driveways come through it, they will have to deal with any ADA compliance issues there. And then at the intersection, we would bring a section out to the actual intersection to get them to the pavement there at the intersection.
So final question, what's the long-term plan for that intersection in the northeast corner?
If I remember correctly, the plan calls for a roundabout at that location. We are not currently under design on that, and so I don't have a time frame of when.
Position as far as for a roundabout?
The conditions of approval do require some right-of-way dedication to accommodate that. We are looking at a shift in the roadway alignment at that location, that in our discussions with them, we would require the standard right-of-way needed for a roundabout, and then at the future project, we would purchase the additional for the shift in the right-of-way to avoid those homes
So the
to the
shift
north.
would be to the south?
correct.
Would be okay, an offset. Okay, thank you.
Did the applicant agree to the conditions of approval? Have you guys gotten to discuss the conditions of approval?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Becky McKay. Yes, we did just had an opportunity to discuss the conditions of approval with Daniel, and we are in agreement. And we have been working with Caleb Leclerc. He was kind enough to send us the footprint for that anticipated roundabout to make sure that we don't make any improvements within that area that's planned for the roundabout or create any undue hardship for the city in the future when they get ready to build that. And we will provide the right-of-way along both principal arterials as required. And then staff said anything beyond that to accommodate the roundabout, that they would negotiate some type of payment based on what Mr. McGurdio paid for the property, as far as some compensation for that future
Great.
roundabout right-of-way.
Thank you.
15-foot landscape on Cherry Lane and on North Side?
Yes, sir. And then I believe your ordinance also requires a combination of fencing. So on our site plan, we did show the landscaping, fencing, the 10-foot pathway.
Is that
And-
on a berm or anything, or is it just flat?
We didn't talk about doing any berming. Berming's not required under your ordinance.
So is the fencing a solid fencing?
Yes, yes, it'd be a site obscuring fencing. And then we did work out our approach locations with your engineering staff to make sure that they would not interfere with the future roundabout or have to be relocated in any shape or form.
So the 50-foot right-of-way that you've agreed to, the 15 feet beyond the 50-foot right-of-way.
Yes, sir.
That's where the sidewalk is going to be placed?
The sidewalk typically would be either at the edge of, probably at the edge of right-of-way, and then the 15-foot landscaping.
So 5 foot of landscape if it's a 10-foot wide sidewalk?
No.
How does that work, Rodney?
You want to answer that, Rodney?
Typically, we require that landscaping beyond that 5 foot is sidewalk.
Or 10 in this case?
Yeah, or 10 foot.
Oh, so it's a... Okay.
Correct.
So we still have 15 feet of landscape area then?
Yes, sir.
But can I ask you a question? In that zone, could be less. I think they're offering 15. but
Yeah, they're
be-
offering 15, it could be 10.
It could
You have
be
a
10.
problem with it being 10?
I'd see 15, that'd be great, thank you so much. That's generous.
Okay. Are there any other questions at this time for the applicant? Okay.
I got one.
Okay,
Mr.
yes.
Mercurio, is there any conditions of approval that are going to be detrimental to you starting this business here in this area?
No, these look okay.
Okay, this is a public hearing, and we're going to move to the public hearing portion. Thank you so much. We'll have you back. So actually, the people signed up. We have the applicant signed up, we have Becky signed up, and then we have one other person. So you guys have already spoken. And in addition to that, we have David. I can't see that last name. Did you care to testify? No, but I see that you're in favor of it. Okay, perfect. Thank you for being here. Is there anyone else that had intended to testify tonight that did not get signed up? Okay, so seeing none, this is an opportunity for the applicant to come back and give us any last words before we close public hearing, if you have any closing comments. And you don't have to, it's just the standard protocol. So you don't have any, okay, so at this time, council, do you have any additional questions for our applicant?
Mayor?
Yes.
Oh, just one question, Mike, if I might. Just for the public record, you are committed to building the recycling project because light industrial, there are a lot of different uses, and so we just have annexation and zoning, but we don't have you committed that this is what you have to make.
As far as taking or building the recycling facility on the property?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Madam Mayor, Councilman Levi, we have submitted a site plan with our annexation application that is part of our packet that could be included along with if a development agreement were required or just with the approvals. Yes.
Thank you. As I look at uses for light industrial, it just concerns me in being such a prime spot with the railroad access that we know that that's what's going to be built there. So thank you.
Councilman Haverfield.
As far as buildings, what you've shown there, is that just more yard area that's being defined?
Madam Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, we have a truck scale, we have a truck scale here, and then we have an office, and they would have a shop, and then they would have finished material bins here for people to come in and get the finished product. And then they would have their storage areas, and
It's all
then,
yard storage.
right,
So buildings, you have very few buildings in it, looks like. None that exceed 30 feet, as I saw listed in here.
no, sir.
So you use quite a bit of water as far as to keep there from, as far as flame potential? Is it self-combustible material that's stored? Is any of that a concern as far as being wood products?
Go ahead, Mike, explain that.
So part of our site plan, we monitor our piles 3 times a week, and we monitor temperature, because compost to compost down needs to be in between 131 and 160 degrees. So we monitor those temperatures, add water if it's not heating up, and we do, I mean, it's kind of a crude way to do it, but we do like a squeeze test, and if the water comes out of your hand, it's too wet, and it probably won't compost, and if it won't hold a ball, it's too dry. So that's what we do, is we try and keep enough water.
Scientific.
And we were taught this on a very expensive class, so.
As long as you're aware of it, obviously. So very few buildings, mostly yard storage, all screened, at least along the street frontages.
Correct.
To the south, is there any, that's another industrial use, is it not? Is that the sugar beet?
I believe that's a sugar factory.
Yes, it is.
Requirement as far as for screening there.
Bio waste for Amalgamated Sugar Company. And he would not be using any domestic water for his recycling, dewatering, or to increase the moisture content. The plan is to work with your Public Works Department and use the irrigation water for those purposes.
Perfect.
Mayor,
Yes.
I make a motion to close public hearing?
If there are no further questions,
Just,
and
Mayor,
for
one
the applicant,
Just one, nothing for the applicant. Can I just ask Beth one question? I'm just giving you a signal to Beth. Okay, thanks.
Is that from BVAP or is that?
okay. So, yes, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Thank you, council.
Mayor?
Too late. He's got it.
Oh, Councilman Bauer is on it.
Talking over the-
What?
This is mine.
What, is there?
This one's his.
Did you take an energy pill tonight or what?
I love small business, so this.
To me, this is a pretty impressive, large.
Sure is. So if it's okay with Darrell, I'd like to make the motion to annex and zoning to light industrial for Timber Creek recycling with conditions of approval of staff.
Second.
I'm going to vote no just because of you.
It's not very often you have competition on who gets to make the motion and gets to make the second. So it has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, just as a follow-up, in the conditions of approval, it doesn't speak to this, to the sidewalk widths or the fencing. That information is, I mean, it's just an understanding in this report somewhere for Daniel to shake his head, yes or no?
So the conditions of approval, he's saying he did not see stated that it was 5 feet on north side, 10 feet on Cherry Lane. Is that noted exactly somewhere?
So that's an understanding that we're.
It's an understanding. Okay. Yes.
I am thrilled about this project. I'm thrilled about the recycling concept, and light industrial is smart growth. And I am so excited. I am just, like, I wanted to make the motion, and I'm willing to go again and arm wrestle you so I could make that motion. So good job, and I'm really excited for you to bring your business here. Thank you.
Okay, roll call.
Rodriguez?
I gotta see her arm wrestle with Jacob.
Jake.
Yes.
Turner?
Should I pause for a couple seconds? Yes.
Munchy?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
and Bauer.
Yes.
And I have to say, okay, so because I didn't have to say anything, I didn't disclaim anything, I met Mike a couple of years ago, I think. And we talked about finding property here. He and I did not talk about this location at all. But I just want to say, I'm so proud of you to see what you've done, starting a business and taking it where you've taken it. And I'm so thankful that you found this property in this location because it's a great location. And then randomly, I ran into Rochelle Klein, who was here earlier tonight, and she shared that Republic was going to be working with you as staging to reduce the traffic on their trucks. And I thought, boy, this is perfect. So you know what, as an entrepreneur, small business owner, growing into a large business, you've done an amazing job, and I'm proud of you, and I'm glad that this has come to pass. Good job.
Mayor,
It's exciting, yes.
how many employees will you have?
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
Good job.
Mayor, since Councilwoman Mucci, what would be your average wage? Or what do you propose? How much? 38,000 average. Okay. Yeah, Councilman Rodriguez wants to come out of retirement.
Be a supervisor.
Making a lot.
So you said about 60 to 70,000 instead of 38? That's really good, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Congratulations. That's awesome. We have one more public hearing tonight. So this is a zoning map. This is 6.5 on the agenda, zoning map amendment to suburban residential, from suburban residential to light industrial, to allow for the construction of 2 new warehouse buildings. And these are for WFS LLC. Nick Barnes is our applicant here this evening. He's online.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome, Nick. Can you go ahead and restate your name and address?
My name is Nicholas Barnes. I'm located at 4022 East Summit Lane in Nampa, Idaho 83687.
Perfect, thank you. Well, tell us about what you're wanting to do.
Piece of property here just down the street from Summit Lane and a lot of other light industrial areas. We've also got another project at 512 that's under construction vertically that's very similar to this. We're just wanting to further the need for more warehouse, flex space areas, very similar to what's on Summit Lane already. So that's basically it. Split it into 2 pieces, put up a couple of nice buildings on it, and similar to Cloud Gate across Garrity Boulevard as well.
Wonderful, thank you. Is that all you'd like to share at this time?
Yeah, I believe so. This thing seems like it's well placed and not looking for any exemptions or anything like that. So it seems like it's a pretty good site for like or similar properties. It bordered on multiple sides of it. So
Wonderful. Well, I'll tell you what, I think we're going to go directly from here to the staff report. And then if council has any questions, we'll come back to questions. So thank you, and we'll be back to you.
thanks.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The proposed, the request is for a zoning map amendment from RA suburban residential to IL for 2 warehouses. It would be 2 warehouses on 0.55 acres each. Total lot 1.26 acres, surrounded by IL to the west and to the north. To the east and to the south are residential, mobile home park to the east, a house to the south. This property was annexed in 1996 and zoned RA. Nick wanted me to include this photo. This is the property. There was a single family home on the property. It's been taken off. He moves quickly. He's ready to go, upon approval, of course. Future land use map, this is in a high-density residential area. It is able to be stretched from the north and from the west as well. Utilities are all there. There's an access road on the north side of the property that reaches 3 mobile homes just directly to the east of this property, and that access will have to remain for those properties. The requirements for the IL zone have been covered, and those are in your staff report as well as the zoning conclusions of law. As far as analysis, it's an increase in industrial land. The setbacks required for the IL zone, being that it's adjacent to residential, would be 30 feet from those residentially zoned properties. And I discussed the access would need to remain through development for the properties to the east. These are the correspondence from engineering, 40-foot, right-of-way dedication, regular building requirements, the recommended conditions of approval, as well as any that you would wish to add, and a potential motion for you. I'll stand for any questions.
Mayor Quinn? The 30-foot setback abutting the residential developments, that's to the face of any building, is that correct? 30 feet?
30 feet from the, your question was
Property line, face of building, 30 feet?
anywhere where the property abuts the residentially zoned property.
Right, it's 30 foot.
30
foot.
feet.
Can anything other than landscape be in that 30 feet?
Parking, just no structure.
So how much of that 30 feet is required to be actual landscape material?
None.
Okay, unless we make it a requirement.
Right.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. Caleb, could you help me understand? I'm looking at the surrounding land use, and it says that there's single-family home on the south and the east is mobile homes, mobile home park. And then I'm looking at the use map and trying to, again, there's not a compass rose, so I'm just assuming that looking at it north is going up there. It's zoned high density. So are those, the high density is future is going to use all, is going to be all around the proposed property. And are those mobile, do those mobile homes know that? Are they not going to be part of the plan?
Councilwoman, those mobile homes are all in the high-density residential area. So this property is within that designation now. So the industrial will be stretched from the north and from the west, one parcel deep. So that will include this parcel, but couldn't be stretched any further than that, except for the parcels that are all along the south of that industrial designation.
Mayor?
Thank you.
Parker? Do you know what the intended industrial use will be and how much traffic and noise?
Councilwoman, I don't believe he has any tenants yet. We can look at the approved uses in that area, but for now it's just flex space, I believe. But we can ask Nick, the applicant, if you wish.
Thank you. So, yes.
Was there a site plan developed as a part of this application, or is it just simply the RA to IL?
Councilman, there was no site plan submitted, and this would simply just be a lot split, no subdivision. So it'll be pretty simple. He'll have to meet our standards, of course.
So there's a flag lot behind?
They just need an easement, access easement for that. So it doesn't, the access doesn't have to be.
Equal side, okay.
Yep.
So the one to the east would have more of the connectivity to the residential.
Correct.
It would be on its east side and its full south. Okay. And then as far as cross alignment with any other street, there isn't any. Is that correct?
Correct.
So the easement could either be on the north boundary line or on the south boundary line. That's yet to be determined.
They would just need to provide some kind of legal access for those lots.
So is there any requirement as far as it speaks to the screening material that's required to be in between a residential and this industrial development? Is that spoken to at all in this report? I didn't see it.
There are requirements for fencing, screen fencing, yeah. And we can, if you'd like to make that a condition, any screening that can be added as well.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Parker at this time? Okay, so we'll open the public hearings and have you back for any further questions. So this is a public hearing and we do not have anyone signed up to testify on behalf or in opposition of this. And I don't see anyone here. Is there anyone online? Okay, so at this time, I don't see anyone here. So that's intended to testify. This would be an opportunity for the council to ask the applicant any final questions before we close public hearing. Yes.
I would like to ask the applicant, the question I asked Parker. What do you plan to put in those industrial units, and then what kind of noise and traffic do you anticipate?
And could we possibly, is the applicant video on or just strictly audio? Because we cannot see Teams. So could we change our screen to where we could actually view? He's not on, it's just on. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. I just thought I'd ask. Okay?
So in speaking to a couple things, if you don't mind, I don't mean to expand the evening here, but that easement to the north, and I'll circle back to the uses, so my apologies here, but that easement to the north is actually a shared driveway currently and has been for years back to access those rear lots. There's a fence already there that's been there, that's in great condition. In fact, the previous owner of this property that we obtained it from had built that. It's a nice cedar fence that's very similar to some of the others that are sandwiched in between 620 and 512, the other sliver there. And so our intent was to maintain that or leave that, not try to squish it down as skinny as we could. We just not rock the boat and keep everybody happy behind us. As far as the intended use of these buildings, it'd be really similar to what's on Summit Lane. There's fairly low traffic, fire suppression companies, stuff like that. I don't have any tenants in mind necessarily at this moment, but the lack of industrial space or flex space currently is a big problem. Especially with the construction boom and so forth. There's a lot of small contractors and so forth that these things would work perfect for. These aren't huge yards, spaces, so it'd be very tough to have a ton of traffic generated from these spaces because, in my opinion, you're not going to jam 30 trucks on each side of a piece of property there, and they're just too small for that. So maybe a small manufacturer or a small construction flex space storage area would what we would envision.
Are there any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Okay, do we have further questions for staff, or what's the will of the council?
Mayor, I'll make a motion.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the zoning map amendment from RA to light industrial with conditions of approval of staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, just what Councilman Haverfield brought up, I think there needs to be, I didn't like, as far as hearing, just a parking lot, but abutting up to the residential. So if there is some type of landscaping or also continued fencing, I would like that added to the motion. So I'll let him speak to that, please.
Mayor Klein? Still there? Okay.
Yes, excuse me.
Same thing. I think it's important that we determine a width of landscaping that would be acceptable abutting residential, especially if in long term it becomes high-density residential. Maybe the mobile home park goes away and something else goes back in there. So 30 feet wide buffer to the face of the building is one thing, but I think we need to maintain, I would have made the motion to include of the 30 feet, that 15 feet, and this would be up for discussion, that would be in landscape material with a 6-foot privacy fence somewhere located within that. If the council thought 10 feet would be adequate, I would be okay with that, because that would be able to get a tree in that width. Anything less than 10 feet, I wouldn't support.
So then at that, would the, Councilman Bauer, would you be open to adding to amending your motion to include a 10-foot landscaping buffer in addition to the fencing?
Yes, I'll amend the motion to include what Councilman Haverfield suggested.
And just for clarification, that's within the 30 feet. It's not in addition to it, it's within the 30
Within.
feet already defined.
Okay. And does,
And I'll amend my second
okay.
to approve.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
There you go. So that concludes our public hearings for the evening. And to our applicant, thank you for joining us online.
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate all your time.
Thank you. Okay, well, let's go back to our new business items. So the next item on the agenda is item 5.3, and this is to authorize the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Nampa Fire District. And you know, in visiting, I'm not sure that we're ready to bring this forward at this time, and I think I would like to postpone this to our next council meeting. So, and there doesn't need to be a motion other than push it forward. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. I don't believe there needs to be a motion, Todd, is that correct?
Madam Mayor, you can just not take it up. Is it a little more clear for the record, since the agenda wasn't amended at the beginning to have a motion, but.
Okay.
your preference.
Let's do a motion then. Jacob?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to move action item 5.3 to a future agenda. Date to be determined. Any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Item 5.4 is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign the intergovernmental agreement for the transfer of collected development impact fees to the Nampa Fire Protection District. This was reviewed by legal. Hi, Patrick.
Hello.
So moved?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Jacob.
Give it to
You
Jacob.
can give him the motion if you want.
$2.9 million. Just like that?
Just like that. Boom.
God,
It's
I
only
don't have a
money.
wallet anymore. It's gone.
Yep. And it's going to a very good use.
Thank you, Patrick.
Okay, if there's no discussion, seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
No.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
And Brunner?
Yes.
Item 5.5 is an action item to allocate $12,046.17 in 2018 and $15,000 from 2020 CDBG program years funding to the 2020 CDBG program year home repair loan program as recommended.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Thanks for coming, Beth.
Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
And Mucci?
Yes.
And we're going to miss Beth.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, 5.6. This is an action item for the council to grant the public sidewalk deferral requested by Eagle Christian Church for the property located at 10,595 Cherry Lane.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Munchy,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Everfield,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Brunner.
Yes.
So we have street namings again. I think we had some last time, didn't we? I think we did. So this is the first reading of an ordinance for street naming for, no, we didn't. I guess this is it. North Fig Jam Avenue and North Ardmore Road and West Silver Fern Street. And it is requested to pass under suspension of rules, so we'll let you read this ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, naming streets. North Big Jam Avenue, North Ardmore Road, West.
Is there a motion to approve the ordinance for the street namings?
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just, I want to ask what a fig jam.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask if it was Jacob's kids that came up with the names. And he wouldn't say.
They've come up with better names.
Oh. Yeah.
Is there a jam
Okay.
made out of figs or?
You put it on figgy pudding.
I think we better vote. I think we should vote. So it has been moved that we approve the first reading of the ordinance under suspension of rules, and I believe we had a second. Roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brunner,
Yes.
Everfield,
I'm not happy with the names, but I'll vote yes.
Bauer,
No.
Levi,
No.
Yes.
What's a fig jam?
Oh,
And Matt.
Yeah.
the other one.
I think that motion passed. Yes.
Where'd the name come from? Who does that?
Daniel?
We got it
Think-
coming up. Did you do that in your sleep?
Mayor, council, street names are proposed by the property owners or developers, and GIS checks them to make sure they are not duplicated and that they comply with our policy. So we don't duplicate street names within Canyon County. And so sometimes you get interesting street names.
They need to come up with better names if they want us to pass it.
Actually, it could be someone's kids that really had fun creating these, so I think we need to be careful
I
with that
agree.
because we could create tremendous offense.
It could have been ear
Okay,
jam.
I'll take ownership of what I
Yeah.
just said.
Okay, 5.8 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for street naming of South Florence Street.
an ordinance of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, naming a private street, South Florence Street.
Second.
And it is requested to pass under suspension of rules? Yes, yes. Discussion, roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brunner,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Munchy,
Yes.
and Haverfield.
5.9 is an action item to authorize the Public Works Director and Mayor to sign a task order for the attached scope of work with Keller Associates for the domestic water and pressure irrigation master plans in the amount of $460,575, and to sign a task order for the attached scope of work with Murray Smith for sewer collection system master plan in the amount of $249,691, and it is approved in the FY21 budget.
So moved.
Second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Munchy,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Bauer. Yes. Haverfield,
Yes.
and Rodriguez.
Yes.
Item 5.10 is an action item to authorize the mayor and the Public Works Director to sign a task order with DKS Associates for the Midland Boulevard, North Marketplace Boulevard Signal Timing Plan Project in the amount of $65,921.07, time and materials not to exceed, and approved in the FY21 budget.
So moved.
Second. It's near his house.
No, it's not.
It's not? Oh, I guess not.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Munchy,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
and Brunner.
Yes.
We can get the timing right on those signals, that's good.
So 511 is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign a resolution and cooperative agreement, which is key number 13471 between ITD and the city of Midland, the city for the Midland and Marketplace Signal Timing Plan Project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Werner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Munchy?
Yes.
Haverhill?
Yes.
512 is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign the sewer reimbursement agreement with Challenger Development. This has been reviewed by legal. Any questions, discussion, or
Yes, Mayor, I need some further explanation on that. So, is that Tom or?
Daniel?
Okay, Daniel.
Thank you.
So Daniel, you know that I've talked about this for the last few weeks, so I just need further explanation how this is all working for the different individuals and so on.
Okay. Mayor, Councilman Brunner, so the reimbursement policy that the city has allows for a developer that installs oversized or over-depth utilities to recoup some of those costs from developers that connect to that system. In this case, up on the screen is the location. It's in the Spring Hollow Ranch subdivision, which is part of the Purdom Sewer Basin. The black line delineates the basin, the portion of the basin that will serve that or be served by that sewer line. And so the way that it works is as other properties come in within that area and develop, at the time of plating, we sign their final plat and they build, they are required to pay that amount per lot. I believe it was $110 in the, yeah, per equivalent dwelling unit. And then that portion of funds, we hold those for the 3 months, and anything that's paid during that, we distribute back out to that original developer who fronted the cost to install those lines.
Okay, so I'm not going to get into the weeds hopefully too much. So does this pertain to the party that I approached you with? Is this the one?
No, we will be discussing that in executive session tonight.
That's a different one.
The-
So I'm just curious if somebody ran the math to make sure it all works, that the estimated development is what it should be, what we're anticipating? It's all, somebody did the
Mayor,
numbers.
council, we have reviewed the request, we've reviewed their assumptions, and agree with the fee that is proposed.
Okay. Thank you. Yes?
Daniel, is there an administrative fee that the city charges to do this?
There is, I believe it's up to a 5%. I don't remember exactly what was in this agreement for the administrative cost. The administrative cost is really just the cutting of checks quarterly for the term of the agreement, is really the only administrative costs that we have.
So as money comes in, though, there's a pool that is being developed, so maintaining that number to know, I mean, there is somebody that's tracking how much is going out, how much is coming in, so there is administrative time spent. So is that enough, is there enough money in that 5% to cover that person's time?
Yes, there is.
I mean, no, it's not you, because you're way up here, so it has to be somebody else.
No, Heather Tafoya in the Public Works handles the distributing the funds and the tracking of that. Caleb Leclerc handles the collection of the fee with the platting actions, and the time that takes is all covered by that fee.
So this is like a latecomers fee reimbursement agreement. Is this normal that we're seeing this at this level? This is the first time I think I've seen one of these since we came up with that latecomers fee program.
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, I believe this is the third one we've done since we changed our reimbursement policy. There are about 3 that are active from prior to that time, and this is the third one. There is the Fellowship water line that I believe you were involved on. There is the one for the Timberlake subdivision up off of Ustick, and then this one is the third one since we've changed our policies and how we do them.
That's fine. I believe in what it's all about. I will support this.
Is there any further discussion? So we have, I guess we're in need of a motion.
Mayor, I'll make the motion to authorize you to sign the sewer reimbursement agreement with Challenger Development as proposed to us this evening in our packet.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez? Yes. Bruder?
Yes.
Machi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Yes.
Item 513 is an action item, and this is to award a bid and authorize the mayor to sign a contract with Pump Maintenance Projects, FY21, to Lane of Idaho in the amount of $424,461.98. It is approved in the FY21 budget. Do we need an explanation on this one?
This is regular annual maintenance.
It was approved in our
Regular.
budget.
So move.
Second.
I have a question. This is a simple question, but I noticed that we've got the 7 cents, 98 cents. Is it necessary? Are we required to have be down to the pennies like that?
Mayor, that is how they put in their bid with those cents, and so that is how we do it.
Okay, thank you. I'm just curious. Anyway. Okay, any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Machi?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
And Bruder?
Yes.
Moving to unfinished business, we have one item tonight at 7:1 on the agenda. This is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for the development agreement modification, ordinance number 3997, modifying the concept plan and allowing light industrial and commercial uses, and a zoning map amendment from GB1 to IP for the Fuller 84 Business Park. And this is for Bow River Capital representing Franklin Star Development, and it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
Mayor, I'll be abstaining from the vote because I was not in attendance at the meeting.
Thank you.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, to provide an IP zone designation for certain lands commonly known as parcel R304-060-0000, located in the northwest corner of the intersection of Star Road and Franklin Road, Nampa, Idaho, comprising approximately 61.62 acres, more or less, determining that said zoning is in the best interest of the citizens, consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, rezoning said property from GB1 to IP, providing for instructing the city engineer to designate said property as IP in the official zoning map and other area maps of the city, subject to the conditions imposed by the city council, and directing the city engineer to alter the use of area map accordingly, providing for an effective date and repealing all ordinances, rules, and regulations and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion to pass the ordinance is read under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Machi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
And Haverfield?
Yes.
Section 8 are pending ordinances, and this takes us to Section 9. We do have an executive